episode 166 of Floating Through Film. This week we continue the Satyajit Ray series with, I guess you could say, two of his more political movies. Maybe his most political movies. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about if these are even political movies in the first place. But these are two of part of his Calcutta Trilogy. Okay, let me introduce my host first, Blake.
What's up?
And Luke.
Hello.
And I'm Dany. And so yeah, these are two of his Calcutta Trilogy. I didn't make you guys watch all three, like that trilogy, because technically it's like
Wait, what's the third one?
Company Limited.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's still good. It's good, but it's like I like these two better. But honestly, it's definitely worth watching if you like these two, because they kind of like Let me read first Andrew Robinson's description of the Calcutta Trilogy, because that's my intro is going to just be about like what these kind of films are, like some stuff of what I've read about it. But let me read what he says, because it's a good way. Like Ray didn't make them as a trilogy in mind. He just wanted to make movies. Like, I guess let me give some background of why he decided to go more modern like this. More I don't know if you can tell, but like the way it's even filmed, it's more like he's trying to go with the more like new wave aesthetic, I guess, that happened basically. These are like early 70s movies.
Yeah.
So like the new wave has already happened in France, or it's like basically the late 60s, right? So he's kind of responding to that too, I kind of love these movies, but I remember the first time I'd watched these, it's almost like you want to blame the restorations in a way, but it's not all the restorations. It's like also the type of filmmaking. It's like they're like more messy in a way. Yeah. Like there's a lot of just silence. Way less music. You could say the movements are not as precise as like in they're like less Renoir-esque, I guess you could say.
Or Ophel's,
or Opel. He still kind of moves the camera like both of them, but I guess both. Yeah, less classical.
Very elegant though.
No, I'm saying like both of those. Like those are the two directors. I would say less so like those movies, and even like the subject matter too. Which is actually another big part is the subject matter itself. It's like it's very contemporary, Yeah. It's very like kind of realistic. It's about these kind of like troubled young men, like very topics that are very pertinent to the new wave, French new wave and stuff as well, and other cinemas that are kind of young revolutionary cinemas that are happening. Yeah. So let me read his quote, because he. If you notice how the Adversary, he's going to say this in the quote, but I'll mention it first. So the Adversary is about a guy that can't get a job. The Middleman is about a guy that's like trying to get a job and he eventually does. And then Company Limited is about a guy who's moving up in his job. Yeah. So they're kind of like they work as a trilogy in that way. Whereas he talks about how I forgot where I saw this, but someone had said you could say they're all basically like the same character too, and they're all like his progression in life too, different aspects of the business world in a way you could say. But let me read this quote. He says, quote, "The three films that Ray made in the 70s about the contemporary Calcutta life were not intended by him as a trilogy, but they cohere well when seen together. They all depict through the world of work, the stress of Calcutta living on young, educated men at a time when this had never been more intense. The rise of revolutionary terrorism and massive government repression, followed by the Bangladesh war and refugee crisis, corruption and nationwide emergency, leading eventually to the emergence of a communist government in Bengal. In The Adversary, Siddhartha desperately searches for a job without success. In Company Limited, has a safe job and wants promotion. And in The Middleman, Somnath creates his own business. From each one of them, Calcutta exacts his toll." So I said them in the wrong order. Company Limited is the middle one, and The Middleman is the last one. But yeah, Middleman came out a few years later, but yeah, I'm skipping the middle one. That's a good way to describe the trilogy. And so I had some before I asked you guys' opinions, I just wanted to read some quotes, like some short quotes that Ray had. So first, Andrew Robinson said he once asked him, do you think that to be in business it is to be slightly immoral? And then he said, without hesitating, Ray said, yes, like I feel about lawyers. Which is like, if you see, like you can see how that's his approach to both these movies, he's really not like these are much different. I've seen people talk about this, where if you compare these movies to The Big City, especially that one, like how it sees the city and like almost like it's hopeful ending, when they walk into the city, compared to like these movies where it's just like the opposite, this is actually the city life now, or like that kind of business world she thought was hopeful. But then this other quote is why I love these movies too, because Ray says, "quote For me, Calcutta is the place to work, the place to live. So you take what comes, you accept the fact of change." And that's what like Ray makes like what makes Ray a great director too. Of like he's almost like a documenter over time. Like that's why it's so cool to see his movies like from the 50s. He made movies all the way up to the 90s. So like
there's
40
a lot
years.
of change, like
Exactly, and he's documenting exactly that change. You know, through these stories. Yeah. But he's really documenting like a real social change, and he saw himself that way too. Before I keep going though, is there any thoughts that come to your guys' head about like these movies in general, like anything?
It's my future life.
Yes, it is. I don't know why you're getting so excited about it.
Yeah, like it's a joke. It's a joke. As long as I make my bread, I'm not. But yeah, like as someone about to go into the corporate world, I guess.
Get ready.
Yay for me. But nah, yeah, like it's interesting. I guess relating to that, and just I guess like how he like films like, just like the way he films everything is really interesting because it almost feels a bit like a foreign type of like almost like scary in a way at points, like especially in the Adversary, like where he gets like especially like the final scene I love a lot, like just like and how he melds like the dreams and stuff into it is like super cool. It's like surrealist, like
dreams, but even the like random flashbacks too, just all the stuff I love.
Like it feels surrealist.
And the like camera going to just the like really
the negative.
The negative.
And of course it's Ray. Like he's like finding like really interesting ways to film like different things in the city too, like the crosswalk and stuff. But no, yeah, it's really good.
Is there anything else about maybe just the trilogy, about the movies in general, any themes or like? Because I was saying like especially the central
capitalism.
Okay, what about it?
I'm not great at like elaborating.
No, but like based on the movies, like the feeling it gives you, like what, like
this capitalism thing is like not very good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like not great. Kind of robs you of like maybe like your like I guess I don't know personality or like humanity in a way.
Yeah. See, I think that's exactly that's what I was trying to.
Which is not good.
Yeah.
Don't want that to happen.
Okay, because I think that's a good point, and actually that's where these two movies differ. If you see what I'm saying, what do you think that? Based on the two main characters.
Oh, because the one can't find the job and like.
But I'm saying more even their attitudes.
Oh, I can't. Like
in the first one, he's more like a revolutionary. Like even at the end, it's like he's still trying to fight
back. But the other one's more willing.
Exactly. He just goes with it. Yeah. You know, he's like you can tell he's like thinking about it. You know, but it's like at the end of the day, he's just giving in. You know, and that's why I love both these movies back to back. We're gonna watch. Because it's like you said right there, like both of them are kind of seeing the same thing from this business world. You know. But like the way they react are much different. But I don't know. What about you, Blake? Anything that comes to mind from both these movies?
No, yeah, a lot of the same. I love the Adversary, especially. It was my favorite whenever I first watched Ray, so I was glad that you chose it. Yeah,
is it still your favorite?
It's still up there. I don't know if it's still the favorite, but because Charlotte is still really good. I don't know. They're both really good though. No, but I mean the Adversary is just amazing because I watched it for the first time I think back whenever I was like early 20s, and now I'm literally like 30, and my thoughts on the movie they've not changed that much. Obviously, I still love it.
Status definitely makes you like your
status
on this.
No, it's just
but you're not exempt from either. Don't like smile over there.
We're both in our 20s, so I don't hear it.
Okay, Mr. 29 years old compared to my 21 years old.
This
8-year difference,
like,
by the way.
What was that? Like Bazin says, this is like a moment in time. Everyone frozen. Blah blah blah. Like, no, 29. I mean, don't delete that. I'm too lazy to delete that.
Yes, sir.
Anyway. I gotta add like a beep buzzer, like
like you're like censoring it. Like.
Yeah. Actually, I might just fucking do that. Never mind. If I can remember, I'm doing that. I'm in my 20s. That's all we know.
No, we know the truth.
He's turning 30.
But anyway, like
30
this. No, but go on. But you're saying like, no, that's a big point for me too.
Well, yeah, because growing older, it's like I don't even know if I see the ending as like he's fighting back. I think the ending as him more just like accepting that the world has changed and that he can't change anything. Like because he accepts the job that removes him from Calcutta.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I don't know how I used to read that, honestly. I can't remember anymore because it has been a while. But now I just read it as, like, he's more just, like, accepted this fact that, like, this is how the business world works and he doesn't want to be any part of it. So, yeah, he's fighting back, I guess, in that way. But he did, like, lose kind of, like, the revolutionary, like, Che that he's wanting to be, like, Che Guevara or whatever.
Yes,
But the Middleman, I really love the Middleman. I hadn't watched the Middleman before. This is my first time watching it. I love the guy that plays the main character. I don't know who he is, but he's awesome. Like
I love him too.
He's like,
I actually like both of these leads a lot.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah. Another interesting thing, I guess in the Adversary is like the hippies start coming in too, which is like really interesting. Like, because he just puts them in like super random. Yeah, like exactly, like super randomly in the movie.
Well, actually, I have when we get to that scene, I have a quote of like Ray, like them talking about filming that scene because there's only like one scene, but then they flash back to it later.
The only reason that popped into my head is because the main character in the Middleman is dressed like a more hippie-ish Westerner, almost like with the glasses and the sideburns and shit.
No, he's definitely supposed to be more like modern. Like,
yeah. But no, I did really like that one. I actually, I think he starts out honestly more so like the guy in the Adversary, like not really wanting to destroy his morals essentially to get what he wants, but the further he goes along in the movie and the more money he gets with doing dirtier things, he gets better with it, obviously, because like money does it corrupts. So
no, there's that. I mean, there's that one legendary tweet that's like, once I touch a little bit of bread, the socialist act is over.
The socialist act is over. You say that's a joke, but I mean it's really true for a lot of people. Yeah. So, which is something the Middleman gets.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand exactly what his job is in the Middleman either. Whenever I was watching it, like I don't know what like I know he's a salesman. I don't know why he's selling.
Yeah.
And why he has to create like all these fake companies to do it.
Oh, I mean the guy that's helping him or him himself?
Well, so is it just him?
He's an order supplier. That's what he calls
order
himself.
Supplier.
Which he's a middleman. You know, we literally see him do it. He like goes gets the supplies from
pimp.
A to
He's
B,
a pimp.
basically.
A Dalal
we'll
or
talk.
whatever.
We'll talk. Yes, no, that's a very big point in the movie. Obviously.
And he is a pimp at the very end too, which I love the ending of the Middleman. Yes. It might be one of Ray's best endings, honestly. Like,
I mean, both of these have great endings.
They do.
Would you guys say these are political movies? Because that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. Is like I've mentioned this author basically every week, but Devin Priyasanyo. Both her books. I'm going to basically kind of combine both of her books and like talk about basically. First of all, are these political movies? I'm asking.
Yeah.
I would say no, just because he's not directly tackling.
No. That's a very good. Like a lot of people are split on this.
I feel like it like.
So why do you say yes?
I don't know how it
isn't.
isn't. I don't know how it isn't.
Okay, so what makes it? Why are you saying that? What are the things that can do?
I mean,
just the subjects, or
I guess just like the capitalist part, like, and just like the corporate ladder. I feel like is a political thing.
Yes, like how it's feeling.
Yeah. Like how like people are kind of like forced to, like just like the job market in general too. Like searching for a job within the corporate kind of like modern capitalist system is a very political thing. I feel like.
No. Okay. Yes.
Saying that it's.
So what about you?
Of course, it depends on like political.
No,
like,
that was a good answer.
Like, I don't know.
So why are you saying no then, Blake?
I think it depends on how you read the movie. Like it's not inherently political, I don't think, because he's not tackling politics head on. This is just about a guy trying to find a job. Like that's the movie. Like that leads very easily into like looking at in a political way, just and based on the subject matter itself. But it's not inherently political, I don't think. Like
I kind of love this because I think both of you guys are right in a way.
So what is inherently political?
That's where I'm like kind of disagreeing with Blake. Like inherently political. You're talking more propaganda, like where it's directly political.
Like that's
like
an
Eisenstein movie or something.
Well, what I consider a political movie is something that's trying to force its politics on you. Ray's not doing that in this movie. Like he's not forcing his politics on you. I don't think he's showing you. He's showing you like what he believes.
But can something that's showing still be political? And let me read this quote from her because I think it does a good job. Because there's another director. I kind of mentioned this. Like, well, Ray was responding to like kind of basically this kind of Indian new wave that was happening, but also like these older Bengali directors of Ritwik Ghatak and Mrinal Sen. And both of them were much more overtly political. The way, like, if you watch those movies, you would be like, yeah, like you guys would both say yes, those are political. you know, because they're very much more overt about the politics in the subject matter. Yeah. But like in this one, it is kind of like it's still Ray like trying to. It's like still told through a personal story, you know, and a personal man's like kind of struggle, and like the politics are still like part of just the social aspects. So that's what makes it interesting. I know Ray himself thought it was a political movie, or both of these were. But let me read this quote. She says, quote, "My proposition here is that Ray, in being quote-unquote political, was more concerned with the collective responsibility of Indians and having made the nation what it had become in the 70s after the expectations of the 50s. And both Siddhartha and Somnath are hence ineffective. Ray does not take refuge in the notion of system that Marxist filmmakers like Mrinal Sen, who located themselves outside it, generally took. The idea of destroying the system puts its weight on future utopia, although those who advocate it have no idea of how it will come about. Ray, in contrast, is talking about the here and now, even when it is about politics." So, can you kind of see what she's saying there? Where like normally in like a more political film, like a film, overly political film, there'll be like a system that they're overcoming in view of some future utopia, you know, like communism, social, you know, that kind of propaganda, or vice versa, you know. Like right-wing propaganda or something. You know, there's always some kind of... That's what makes it political, right? They're fighting for a better world or something. Ray, like she says, Ray, in contrast, there's nothing like that. You know, she's only focused on the current issues, like, that someone in the early 70s in Calcutta might go through.
That's like... It's like his helplessness against him.
Yeah. And, like, he's, like... We see his, like, personal revolutions, you know? That's what I love about the movie. It's kind of saying more like this is kind of what maybe he can do, you know, the most he can do. Yeah. And like says even with the ending and stuff, but it's like it's a type of political filmmaking that's more I don't know, like it's not over, and it's definitely more observational. You know, it's like it's having you read it about where the politics are. That's kind of like you kind of have to think about it. You know, when you're like, is it political? And you have to think about like the social aspects or like what he's encountering. You know, and we'll talk about that as we're going through the movie. But then another aspect she really talks about, and this is the main part of like kind of both of her essays, is basically, and it's kind of related to these movies aren't political, but they are what she calls moral movies. And I guess before I go, what do you think? Is there anything that comes to mind when I say that?
More like moral movies?
Yeah, or like actually like moral issue movies, maybe.
Like it's more about like his like moral stance on the like systems or whatever.
I guess yes. In a way, it's like basically like it's the movies are about kind of like the morals he has to encounter.
Like going through. So they focus on him though.
Yeah, mainly hit the two leads. Yes. Yeah. Let me read this quote where she says, because she's comparing them to basically mainstream Hindi movies, but this is true for basically most mainstream movies, where she says, in Ray's films, because they are realistic or mimetic, they observe the nation as mainstream cinema, which instead allegorizes its meaning, does not. And his films nearly always have something original to say about the changing social landscape. So basically what she's saying is like, Ray is much more observational, and like normal mainstream movies, they're much more like, the meaning has to be way more allegorized, but like basically more overt, you know? And she goes on by say like, the difference between a moral movie like Ray and a traditional mainstream movie is the clear lines of good and evil are very clear in a traditional mainstream movie, right? Yeah. Like basically this idea of inherent good and evil is like there in characters from the beginning. You know, like when we see an evil character, they're basically evil from the beginning. When they're a good character from the beginning. But in a moral movie, you could say like Renoir's movies are very similar to this. Like there's no good and bad, right? There's just like these moral issues and these people, and we kind of have to like make our judgments ourselves on them, you know. Okay. But we wouldn't even have like if we disagreed on how that we felt about it wouldn't be surprising, you know. It's not like a normal mainstream movie where like if we disagreed on Thanos being evil, it'd be like, what? You know what I mean?
He was right. No,
yeah, you know, people do that shit.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like Kanye would like think Thanos is like good or something.
Well, a lot of people do that, but like, okay, maybe that was a bad example. But like, you know what I mean? Like, basically, I was thinking of this first evil. Thanos was right. That was the thing.
Yeah. About what? About killing
half.
I feel like half of everything in existence.
Okay.
There are people that say that. So.
Good for them, I guess.
But so the moral part of the movies are like through the leads, right? The main characters, right? What the male protagonists go through, right? And the kind of moral issues they face. But the biggest part of her essays are what she calls are the amoral women. And it's kind of interesting because none of us have brought them up so far, but she makes a really good point about basically the women in both of these movies. So the sister in The Adversary and kind of the ending of The Middleman with the best sisters.
I brought up the ending of The Middleman.
You did, yeah.
Just saying it was maybe Ray's best ending.
No, honestly, yeah, for a lot of reasons.
For a lot of reasons. The woman being the primary reason. But.
Yes. So let me go into what she means by amoral woman, because I think it's a really interesting idea of like basically when the men are presented, they're kind of faced with these moral issues, right? But when the women are presented, they're basically like, at least Ray's gaze or camera, he's not negative or positive towards them. They're amoral, like especially even how they see themselves, like so the sister, how she's like basically unapologetic or whatever about how she's with the boss, how her relationship with the boss, or like the sister prostitute at the end of The Middleman, basically how they see their role, versus how the men see them in their roles. And so let me read what she says as quote. She says, quote, "But since the psyche of the protagonists, Siddhartha and Somnath, is central to the film, much of the action is observed through them. But if we get a picture of the amoral women through their eyes, the women still emerge credibly because of Ray's ironic gaze, fixed on these men themselves rather than on the women." Basically saying like, okay, then let me keep going. She says, quote, "In other words, what Ray makes clear through his characterization of these libertarian women is that they are not to be judged personally, but as a reflection of and as a product of their times." And that's like a really good, basically, like what she means by amoral woman is like when we see the women on screen, like we're not really supposed to judge them as characters in themselves making decisions like the way the men are, because like even they themselves kind of understand they're more a product of the system and the men really don't want to accept, that they're kind of having a struggle accepting that, and the women, like the way they're having it's significant that both of them, especially the sister in The Adversary, she's basically the moneymaker of the family, like she's basically the only one at the time making money for the family, even he hasn't had a job yet, and yet they're like there's like this is like the inherent contradiction of capitalism, like in this relationship where like they need her money, they don't want her to quit her job, but yet they don't like basically anything she's doing in her job, her relationship with her boss, basically they have all these traditional kind of values towards it, but they still don't want her to quit because they need the money, that's like the modern basically, like it's almost like the same kind of struggle in the big city, but it's kind of more darker, It
is.
And then The Middleman obviously is just even darker version than that, because it's like the sister is literally a prostitute, like he's kind of doing the double meaning thing, but it's like very literal at the same time. But that's what I love. Like, let me read this. Let me read this quote, because this is what I love. Because normally these kind of films, I almost did, but I just didn't get time. I was almost gonna watch Mizoguchi's Street of Shame, and there's another one.
I already watched that like a few months ago.
Okay, and there's another one too. Sisters of the Gion.
Yeah.
Like, because I went through like his prostitute movies. I know he has more, but those two I still remember, because I remember how just like non-judgmental. And I'm about to read this quote, but just like
Streets of Fame is so insane.
But just like it's very understanding, like Ray, of the social situation. Like I said about how the women are not to be judged personally, but as a reflection and product of their times, and like the women basically understand that. I remember Mizoguchi's also very much like that. And
we should both watch Mizoguchi together.
Someone pick them. Okay.
Someone pick them. Like, because you haven't been having trouble watching movies in general. Like,
I have,
and I have too.
I started one today because I have another director. I was like, oh man, I didn't get back to him. But I didn't finish the movie because it was honestly because you were late. Like you kept pushing the time back to go behind the curtain. So I was like, oh, I have time to watch a movie.
Wait,
now.
what movie?
I started Taste of Charity.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Another rewatch.
Yeah, no, it's so good. I only got halfway through it.
Oh damn.
But also like that was one Kirasami compared to Ray too. Kurosawa.
Compared to
Ray. He compared Kiarostami to Ray.
Oh,
because he was like sad when Ray died, and he's like Kiarostami. Well, then I found out about Kiarostami's movies right after, and I was happy again. But let me read what she says about Ray's women, basically. In Ray's films, the women are not merely victims, but are always actively resisting the circumstances imposed on them through ways frowned upon by traditional patriarchy. The woman negotiates her way into a new position instead of simply breaking with an unacceptable one. Ray goes much beyond a lament, which would have been the case if the woman had merely been a victim. These women's images stay on with their audiences because they are positive images, both to challenge existing negative definitions and as progressive figures for identification. They imply the need for a correction in a patriarchal Indian society, but they also comment upon the trajectory of the nation as a community. And that's a great quote, like, in itself, but, like, I just love that idea of, like, Ray goes much beyond a lament, which would have been the case if women had been merely a victim. And the way that they're basically actively resisting their circumstances. Because, like, I talked about this, like, with other... Mizoguchi always stands out to me, but basically being realistic, but also trying to have this kind of cinematic hope that are in these mainstream movies. You know, this idea of you can fight back, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, that kind of heroic journey everyone loves about cinema, you know? Where you're like, I can get over this. Or, like, you know, even up against impossible odds kind of thing.
Yeah.
But having that kind of hope, but even in a very realistic setting... it's kind of hard, and, like, it's even at the same time people don't like seeing it.
I think even I think there's a Straub. I still can't pronounce the girl's name.
Hilo? I don't know how to say it.
I don't know how to say it. I need to like literally. I've had this struggle so much, and I keep forgetting to look up how to pronounce it. But they have a quote where they said about Mizoguchi's movies where, like, because of, like, their, like, what you just described, like, you could show it to workers in factories. And they would, like, understand it in a way. Because it is so kind of, like, direct, but also kind of, like, has that kind of, like, hero's journey type thing.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Because they also call themselves, like, the midpoint between Ford and Mizoguchi or whatever. Yeah.
Damn.
I'm not an expert on them, like, people on Twitter are. But, like, that's just what I've read about them. Cause people
I just wouldn't have thought, like, hero's journeys with their movies. That's why I'm kind of surprised. But
yeah, there's... Well... not really. I don't really understand their movies very well. Maybe I should just say that. So I shouldn't comment on it,
but yeah. Let me read one last quote. Where she quotes Simone de Beauvoir, where she says, this is a Beauvoir quote. She says, quote, "From the moment when woman is free, she has no destiny than what she freely creates for herself." And that's basically, like, you could say both these women, even if they're, like, especially in the Middleman, it's very depressing. But even in the Adversary, like, both these women are kind of very honest about their circumstances.
Yeah.
And at least they're willing to kind of change them. Where the men are kind of just very, like she says, ineffectual. You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of just, like, thinking without, especially in the Middleman, like, he basically just lets everything happen.
Especially in the Adversary. He's a thinker, both of them. Not an action. Wait, or is that the Middleman?
The Middleman, he does nothing. At least the Adversary, that's what I'm saying. We're going to talk about, he has these little moments.
Well, which one is the friend literally saying that to him? Where he's like, there are two people in this world, people who think and people who do.
Yes, that's the Middleman.
Okay.
That's exactly, exactly. And honestly, like, because... that's why I've loved this author too, because she's made me realize, like, a lot more of, like, I've always known, like, Ray basically has loved women more than men in his movies, and you kind of see that throughout.
I love women more than men too.
No, you don't. Stop lying, Luke.
Even though you are the most sexist of us all. And we're gonna keep it moving. Wait, no comment. He didn't respond. Let's go.
No, I'm just shocked by his accusation.
Okay,
we all agree with Blake. We all. What does Blake say when the? What does Blake say when the UFC women's come on? Just like.
That is true.
That's all I'm gonna say. That's my response.
WNBA too.
WNBA, exactly.
WNBA is a real.
I'm a big Angel Reese fan. Everyone knows.
Okay, we got it. Okay, but anyway, because I'm going to start because I was listening to this Ray interview in 1983 that he did. First of all, the interview is amazing because it was a French TV interview, and so if you're listening, you'll be confused at first because you'll hear the question in French, and then he'll answer in English. Then you hear a French translator, and okay, you're just like, what's going on? And so what really was happening is Ray knew English and French, but the French translator didn't know English. So they're asking the question in French. He answers in English right away. Then they have to translate back in French to the translator. I mean, to the people asking the questions, which is, like, amazing. And then you also have to hear Ray's voice because it's like you would never guess that. Like, the way he speaks English is so elegant. It's amazing.
Wait, why is he? So he knows French? Why is he?
Yeah, he knows French. I don't know why he's not.
Well,
maybe he just doesn't trust
It's different.
He doesn't trust his speaking anyway.
Yeah. A lot. That happens a lot.
Yeah. But it's kind of confusing. I'm like, what's going on? But then it's like, damn, like he actually understood. Like, why would he even know French in the first place?
Why not?
I
feel like
he knew a few languages. Because apparently he knew German too a little bit.
Damn.
At least knew how to read it.
Knew how to read German.
Yeah. Damn. At least that's what someone in the comments was saying. So, but anyway, I think the reason I'm bringing this interview up is because I think in the beginning of this episode, I'm going to start it with a quote that he says about what I've been talking about. But he basically says, they ask him, and he says, basically he finds women in his films more interesting than men. And it's for a lot of reasons, but he kind of says it's like, he doesn't say it like it's, because they're just like naturally stronger, even though he's in a way he's saying like because of like the way society and nature treat men and women, which women end up having to be stronger, you know.
That's what that's what kind of Mitsubishi says.
Yeah. But and then like as a documentarian, you can see why he would say that, you know, like the way he's observing, you know. Yeah. And he's kind of saying that it was like it's just kind of a matter of fact thing.
Do you think Ozu says that?
I don't know.
Or do you think Ozu's more like?
I don't know. I think you can actually see that, but I think you can actually say Ozu and Ray have similar theme about the kind of failed traditional masculinity of the modern world, you know, and the women are the ones that are like basically more equipped to deal with it because like they don't have all these like past pressures, you know, of tradition like weighing down on them and stuff. But I don't know. That's interesting. I know Ray loved Ozu and Mitsuguchi, so
me too.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah.
We have something in common,
yeah. But I think we can go ahead. Is there anything specifically about the Adversary that comes to your mind that you want to talk about?
I just like kind of like how like I just kind of liked how like kind of experimental it was. At least it felt. Okay. Like and honestly like just like how on the ground it was, like just how young like it felt, you know, like he felt like he feels like more of a young filmmaker here in a way. See, that was cool to see, I guess.
Yes. No, I like the experimental part you mentioned because we'll definitely talk about some of those. At least the stylistic techniques too, and that's the new, you know, the French New Wave thing I was talking about. Where he's trying to experiment more stylistically, like they are, you know.
Do you like it? Did he like a lot of the French New Wave guys? Like,
I know he did. It's actually.
Oh wait, actually no.
I know he loved 400 Blows.
I remember because I heard a quote from him where he said he loved Godard, but like past like the '60s work, he like felt like Godard was like too foreign or whatever or something. Mm-hmm. Like he felt cold towards him. I was like, oh.
I was funny. Someone on Twitter was talking about it today, like all the French directors hated Godard. Apparently, like even Varda or like Godard. Like Varda was the only one that liked him and stuff. But
did Demy like Godard? Demy had to like. They were friends. I know.
I don't know.
And Varda was like, "Is it me?"
Oh my gosh.
Demy probably didn't hate anyone. So
Demy was a true lover, bro.
Exactly.
What about you, Blake? Is there anything that comes to your head about this movie?
No, that's what I was gonna say too. I think that's one reason why I probably liked it the most on my first watch is because he is going kind of like. He's going really experimental just with a lot of his camera movements and stuff. Because like what Luke said with it feeling young, it definitely does. It feels like I know we mentioned Papa Pacioli. It felt like it had a lot of energy, and this movie feels like it has a lot of energy too. Way more than you should after making movies for almost 15 years or whatever it's been at this point for him. But no, there's some amazing just like surrealist moments that he's had in his movies before. But I feel like in this movie, I don't know. I love the dream sequences in this movie, and just when he decides to put them in, because it's just like it's what I love about some dream sequences where just like a sound will draw you back to like this thought that you're having of this flashback or whatever, and that's what I don't know. I like it a lot, and he is doing a lot of interesting things with just like the camera too that I like too. But.
No, I agree with both of you guys. I'm just gonna go through some things that Andrew Robinson mentioned about the movie.
And
go ahead.
The openings of his movies are always interesting, just because he's doing something interesting in all the openings. And this movie, it's just like there are so many fucking people in the Adversary in the opening credits, man. Like that, I feel like that's something he's definitely trying to get across to you in the opening credits. Like how many people are in this town or in this city?
Is like Calcutta? Is that like one of the biggest like cities in India? Like,
Yeah, it used to be the capital of India before it moved to Delhi and stuff. So it's a huge.
Was it the capital at the time of this movie?
No. I think it already moved to Delhi this time. I'm pretty sure. But
it's still one of the biggest cities.
Yeah, it's still a huge city. Okay, before I start, let me ask you this, because they mentioned this in a lecture I was listening to about this movie, and I was like, damn, actually, I should probably ask this question: is who or what is the adversary of this movie?
What does that even mean, low-key? Like
the adversary,
like the
opposition.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like the.
There's a lot of adversaries.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Well, then why is it called the adversary?
It's all of them grouped together.
So what is it? What's the first thing that comes to your head? Because she mentions
society.
Society, just like
Maybe that's why it's called the adversary, because it's society.
But be more specific. Society can be
capitalism.
Everything. Okay, capitalism.
The free market. Actually, I have no idea.
She mentioned one that I think is interesting too, and I've seen this a couple places where like they say a lot of this movie is about the tensions between the siblings, and she mentioned basically the adversarial relationship between him and his younger brother, or in a way him and his former life too, because like he's the one that gave him the shade book and stuff. But yeah. Also the city itself. I think the adversary could also be. This is a Ray theme through all of his movies, is the clash between modernity and tradition, and to me that like you can kind of see that. Also idealism of this guy and like basically his beliefs versus the world he's having to face, which is like the exact opposite. Extremely materialistic. And because actually Ray said. So he first quotes Ray. Ray said, "I felt very close. I felt very strongly for the character. He was very close to my heart." And then Andrew Robbins said, "He is Ray's archetypal man of conscience." And like both, and I've seen a few people say this. That this is basically like kind of the character closest to Ray's head, or like maybe Ray's personal. And Ray basically has kind of quotes saying like very similar things. And Ray, it's interesting because Ray actually called this a. I don't know if you guys would agree, but Ray called this a pro-revolution film.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would say.
Even though
earlier you said it's not political, but now you're saying it's like kind of the opposite.
I would agree with that because I can read as political, obviously.
You don't want to. Like...
No, I just say it's not inherently political because I don't know.
So what I said before. The reason why he said it's a pro-revolution film is interesting because it's almost like. He was like, things are so bad in Calcutta right now, and like I haven't gone too much into it, but I mentioned a quote earlier where like the communist government had taken over, and there was a lot of political unrest, and I don't want to get too much into it because there's a lot, but basically there's a lot of political unrest, and you kind of see that in the background in both these movies, especially in The Adversary. And Ray kind of agreed with he has this quote where he's like, basically I have to make a pro-revolution film because that's the only thing that can happen. Like, the things are so bad here, like, I have to. He's, like, saying almost like a documentary, kind of as an observer. It's like, if based on what I'm seeing, like, that's the only thing that could change anything is being pro-revolution, because that's how bad things are. And he says that about The Adversary, but it's almost like he feels that way more about the Middleman for how bad things are, It's just, like, there's just no revolution taking place in that. Maybe that's why it's not a pro-revolution film. But, another part that I love about this movie, and I think that's like we're gonna talk about some of these images specifically, is the Ray really loved the writer for this book, whose name was Sunil Ganguly, and he wrote the book called The Adversary, which this movie's based on. And let me read what Ray said because it's like really high praise for the author. He said, "Quote: I should put Ganguly's name high among present-day writers whom filmmakers could read with profit. For one thing, he's a very visual writer. Characters, incidents, relationships are all largely built up by means of sensitively observed external details, a fundamentally cinematic device. The dialogue is sparse and lifelike, with not a trace of highfalutin didacticism. I know. If the surface appears simple, there's depth and density underneath, and there's lyricism too. For Sunil is a poet. To set beside the sudden bullet-wrenching scenes which strike one as much by their unexpectedness as their conviction. In The Adversary, one finds all of these qualities, given point and cohesion by the central character of Siddhartha, so endearing and believable in his contradictions, set by turns against his family, his friends, the girl he takes fancy to, in the society which ultimately drives him to take refuge in a small job in a small town. if I were asked to give just one good reason for choosing this literary work, I would say it's Siddhartha. I just thought it was like really high praise, and I just like he mentions how visual his writing was in the book, which I haven't read, but like I think you can really get that in the movie too, where you just get these like sudden images and stuff, and we feel like just very much in this guy's head, you know. By the end of the movie, you feel very close. Like when he's like revolting, like you feel like very much just by what he's gone through.
That's why it's like pro-revolution, but it's also like the revolution did fail at the end of the movie because he just left.
Yes, it's like a personal revolution.
That's true.
You know? And it's funny because Andrew Robinson says a lot of contemporary like Western critics at the time, they kind of saw this movie as a comedy. He said, let me read the quotes. He says, at least 2 major critics in New York, a city often loosely compared with Calcutta, found the film to be a moving comedy. I can understand the kind of reaction to The Middleman, though I do not share it, but applied to The Adversary, it suggests a near total absence of empathy with the idealistic spirit and disinterest in materialism that has kept the battered city alive and has given Ray his eminent place in it as a serious artist with a popular following. I think that's like a really... I personally, why I love this movie, like... I think why like it still stood the test of time, like for Ray, like why I read that Wes Anderson quote last week, like he loved this movie, all this trilogy, but especially this movie too. Is like, there's like 2 things going on in this movie. It's very realistic about understanding how this world works, how this capitalist system works, but at the same time, it's also very idealistic in understanding how someone, especially at this age, would react against this, why they would be so against it, you know, and their feelings. Like Ray has this quote where he says, there are a lot of things going on in Siddhartha's head, and he has no one to communicate his thoughts to. And there's just like, even like, that's why I felt so close to when I first watched it. It's like, I still remember this, like, it would drive me insane where so many people would like apply to all these colleges and be like, they would put so much time into like their ACT and like SATs and like applying to like thousands of colleges and be like, it's just like so random. Like these, like the way they're being accepted at these colleges are gonna like transform the way they do the rest of their lives, you know. But all of this is so random, and like we're gonna see that in The Middleman specifically, where like he fails his test because like the guy that was correcting it like had bad glasses.
Oh, he passed.
Or he passes, but he doesn't get honors.
Not with honors.
He doesn't get honors because the guy had faulty glasses. Because that's what the dad's like. It doesn't make any sense. Like history's your best subject. How would you have like as your worst score? Like you could put all this effort in, you know, and it's just random. Like this study. I remember reading about this study, and it's like it always sticks in my head where they did this study on teachers where they would grade tests, the same test before lunch and after lunch, and the after lunch test would get way better scores.
Well, it's also like if you take just the first test that they grade compared to the last ones that they grade, they also get better scores because they're just like, I know what this shit is.
Exactly. Yes, it's like you could put all this time studying all this, but if your test gets graded first, that's out of your control. You know, versus if your test gets graded last.
If your last name comes higher in the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly, stuff like that. Yeah. Damn, that's an S-head talking over here.
Yeah. One below you, my dude. Let's go.
Luke just had a flashback moment right there.
It comes to bias and
that's why I fucking failed that English test.
Yo. I know who to direct my anger towards now.
Yeah. No, but yeah, damn. That's why I think I love that. Like basically, I've talked about this with Ray. Is like he loves contrast. Like he loves music. This idea of contrast is a very basically in any art that involves time. So music and film, it has to involve some kind of contrast. And the contrast of this movie is like that idealistic spirit of the individual versus this very depressing materialistic world that's basically come about from, you know, the more idealistic 50s of the big city versus now the more realistic 70s that's taking place, you know. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and get into it. I love the I don't know, why do you think he uses these reverse shots, these negative shots?
That's interesting. I don't know why either. I just think it's cool, but
it is cool.
Because I was trying to think of like one that I remember specifically is like whenever he meets the prostitute. Yeah. And I don't know. I wonder why he went to negative in that one. So.
Yeah. I do. I'm not sure if there's a why more than he wants it to stand out. Yeah. And that's what I love cinema about. Is like you can frame something just because you want it to stand out or something, like necessarily like it has some specific meaning. And that's what I was saying. Like, it's not directly related, but where she was saying earlier how mainstream cinema has to like allegorize all its meaning, like it has to make it very like the negatives would be very specifically, but like in here I don't know if they have direct meanings more than he wants them to maybe stand out. Maybe not. I don't know. Like I was trying to think like when he uses them in certain cases. Maybe we'll go through it and see. But yeah, this opening scene, it's basically the father dies, and we're kind of seeing like him just stand on like near this funeral pile, and then we see him on the bus, and this is where he goes to his first interview. And this scene will always stick out in my head.
Yes,
like it's one of my favorite scenes in just like movie history. I don't know, just there's so many parts of it. First of all the guys' faces I just love, and the way they fucking like turn their head into or asking these dumbass questions, like they're super serious, you know, like they're like they ask him what his aim in life is, and he's just like right now to find a job. It's like so relatable, you know. They ask him, "Do you like flowers?" And I love his reaction. His answer is like not unconditionally. Some I like, some I don't. Because like he said he used to study botany. I think that's why they ask him. They ask him like, "What's the mitochondria?" Who the prime minister of England was during the during independence. And then the best answer though, this is the one where it's like where you can see Ray. There's sort of like Ray's getting his own thoughts, you know. Yeah. Where they ask him, "What's a significant event of the last decade?" And I think they're basically expecting him to say.
Which this is actually a good interview question too. Like this is one of the ones that I could see a company asking to weed out communists.
Okay, yes, exactly. Yes, that's why they're doing it. That's exactly why they're doing it.
But it's also like this is one that I would actually like to answer.
This is what he knows, and this is like this is where that's why I brought up that great quote about the idealism versus the materialism is like. He knows that when he's going to answer this question. He's trying to toe the line while still being true to himself.
Yes.
Where the next guy in the next film, he probably just been more like, let me just answer the lie. Let me just lie, you know, because that's probably easy. I need the job. You know?
Well, I like
trying
how
to toe the line. He's trying to do both ways.
I like in this one how long he just hangs on thinking about his answer.
Yes.
After they ask it, because he's like after watching it so many times, you're like, I'm in his head going like he's thinking. Do I say what they want to hear, or do I say what I actually believe?
Yes.
Because later on in the movie, he says, "I'm just going to lie from now on."
Yes, he has that realism. Right now, like he says Vietnam, and they say, "Wait, what about the moon landing?" And he's like, "It's the Vietnam War, sir. We weren't shocked by the moon landing after years of technological progress, but the courage." He's like, "The courage of the Vietnamese people, what it's revealed about them, was something we didn't know." I loved that answer too.
Yeah.
But then of course his first response is, "Are you a communist?"
Are you a communist?
and then he says his answer is great too. He says, "You don't have to be one to admire them." And then he's like, "That doesn't answer my question." And like they immediately kick him out basically.
Yeah.
He's basically out there. And let me read Andrew Robinson's quote about this opening scene because I love it. He says. When Siddhartha, without rhetoric, replies to the interviews that his own opinion, the most significant world event of the last 10 years is the plain human courage shown by the Vietnamese people, rather than the American moon landing. Ray is speaking through him about his own values, and those of his giant predecessor, Tagore. You see, no one knew they had it in them, Siddhartha tells the storied stolid bureaucrats, who then explicitly inquire, "Are you communist?" He loses the job and there and then. And then I love this last line. Moral victories don't pay. He is forced to accept. Even if they make one feel good for a while. Because it's like, that's the realism of the movie versus like, where I say that's the difference between the mainstream movie where like, he probably would have some he would have some real victory at the end, you know? Yeah. This one is like, you really have to stretch,
he's like helpless.
Yeah, in a way. And I should have gone, but I was going to, but I just don't have time to go back and look at like, these movies are very relatable to Deleuze's whole like, movement image to time image delineation, where he sees like, during the action or movement image of the early cinema, this heroic journey where we would follow the main characters, they have power. They would have action of what's going on. Yeah. But then over time, what he says the time image occurs is where these main characters, these protagonists, become watchers of the events. You know, and like it's like the Middleman is such a perfect movie for that description because it's like he's literally just watching these things happen and he's just thinking about them, but he's like watching with us. You know, where in like a normal mainstream movie, like he might have some action into the scene where he changes it in some way. You know, where it's like. And these like time image movies, they're just watchers. You know, they're like, and that's what makes them more realistic in a way. You know, they're more like us in terms of like how we have to approach the world in a way. Yeah, I wish I had found specific quotes. He probably has some amazing ones about that, but maybe next week. But So then he leaves the scene, and he leaves that interview, and then he goes, and we only see this guy's back turned to him, but he goes and talks to this old guy about like the politics he used to be in, and the guy that's talking to him is actually Satyajit Ray's voice. If you hear his voice, he's like talking in English, like this deep English voice. But he's basically telling him like, he invites him to come help with the party politics, but this is where like the main character's like, I have to be realistic. I need a job at this point, you know, especially with his father. I guess that's one thing. Like, maybe that's why we see the funeral procession at the beginning. Like his father's died. Like he needs the job. You know, he can't like fuck around.
Yeah. Maybe the negatives are like the moral turning points in his life or something, or these moral like dilemmas that he's having.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Also, I love the negatives, and then we'll talk about the ending. But that's why I love the ending too, because it's like a negative. But when he sees the skeletons, like normally you would see like an X-ray scan or something like that of a skeleton, but he's just like real skeletons.
That's amazing.
This is when this guy also offers him the medical rep role outside of Calcutta. So this is like basically going to be the thing that he can come back to.
It's his fallback.
Yeah, his fallback basically. But he has this amazing quote. So this older guy that basically has advice where he's like, and I love how the camera will like, the guy's talking to him and then like the voice joins out where like, and then we get his own inner thoughts, and he's like, so many people have given me so much advice, I'm mine is stuffed with advice and it's choking. It's like just such a great quote where it's like, sometimes you just don't want to hear people's advice, you know, like, yeah, then he goes to a movie theater, right when he like goes to lay his head down to relax, there's like a bombing.
Yeah.
Kind of just giving into like kind of.
It's like a Boonwell movie.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
We've said that a couple times in the series.
Just a bomb goes off in the background, no big deal. Like,
no, honestly.
I was trying to think of what movie that was. It was Boonwell movie.
There's multiple
Obscure Object.
Yeah.
But isn't there like also in other movies too? There's like just
Phantom
like
of
some
Liberty,
casual
maybe?
terrorism in the background.
Phantom of Liberty has the best terrorism scene of all time.
Where
that guy, the sniper, just like
shooting,
no sound, just amazing.
I love when people die.
It scares the shit out of me too. That's why it's like it's so casual. It's just so casual.
It's so good.
He loves it. And then like the way like the trial scene right after, he's like a celebrity. So, damn, we gotta do him on the podcast. No, but I love these shots too, because first of all, these shots are great of just showing him like, you know, he's like, I could show a cool young guy like the new wave people do with sunglasses walking through the city.
He can,
from these high angles. He definitely can.
No, that one like crosswalk shot.
Yes,
where it's like from above.
There's a great poster of it too. With that.
Oh, well, it's because like the crosswalk is so cool because it's like the arrows are pointing both ways. It's like also a perfect like doesn't know where to go. Like,
great. Yes, honestly, like the way Tati uses these.
Honestly,
yeah, it's kind of a Tati-esque.
What are these
angle
signs on the? What are they called? Ground signs? What are these called?
They're called
road
markers.
Road markers.
Not road signs. Road markers.
Crosswalks.
But what that's what called? It is. Like, what's the category, bro?
Yeah, what's the category? Like a road marker?
Are they markers? Sure, I think that sounds right. Road
what
markers?
Is a crosswalk category? Google that.
What is a crosswalk?
What category does crosswalk?
This is not gonna. The AI is gonna be like, "What the hell?"
I'm not asking AI. I'm asking Google. But Google AI might got me.
Google AI is gonna be
crosswalks fall into the broader categories of traffic control devices, and actually, never mind. That doesn't mean any sense.
Exactly.
But I also love with these shots of him walking.
Pavement marking.
Yeah, some markers.
Okay, pavement markers.
I think
street markers.
That's a thing you could say.
All right, you're right. But anyway, no, but I love this. First of all, I forgot to mention this is maybe my favorite flashback moment. He has a few of them, but this is like maybe the funniest one, where he's like watching the girl walk across the street, where he's like, to me this is like Ray also being like, he's trying to be idealistic, where he's not trying to sexualize a woman, but he's still sexualizing her, I guess, because like he's like staring at this woman, but then it cuts to him like taking up the breast lecture.
Yes.
It's just
these medical cuts are so funny sometimes.
Yeah, but this one's the funniest. It's like right when he's like watching. It's like a long shot of him watching her walk across the street, and then it cuts immediately to like the close up of the woman's breast of the guy talking about it.
No, that's crazy.
No, but then he keeps walking to where's he? Oh yeah, this is when I think he sees the hippies next.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like smoking. These hippies, like, the quotes are so funny. One of them like, "This is wonderful. This is where the world started. This is where the magic is."
Like the playtimes for us.
Yeah, basically like that. And then another one's like, "We come to Calcutta and we like every one of you people." Because I love it because it's like this kind of like sensualization of India, I guess, where like
that the Beatles popular.
Yeah, I was literally like the Beatleizations of like India, where like you just see them as like mythical and kind of like these places where you go back to find your roots. Yes. And meanwhile you see this like very modern guy, just like we're watching this very modern movie, at least at the time, of him walking like having modern problems. Yeah. He's just basically contrasting it to.
At least they're nice about it though.
yeah, they are.
They're a little confused, but they got the spirit.
It's because they're wealthy white people.
Yeah.
And apparently, like the actor said, they were high on cough syrup during the scene. Like while they were
we can tell.
They were basically.
We can tell.
And basically, Ray just said like do whatever they felt like. So this is, and Ray also said like one of them was like really rich, and that's how they like his guess was she was like paying for their whole trip over all the hippies and stuff.
That's why I told you.
So this is classic like rich kid hippies like coming to India situation. He's basically saying.
This is like the modernization. This is the thing with modernization is it always affects the people that it has to affect, and the people that have money, they can think about traditions and ancient and like where we came from and shit like that.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else has to think about here now. So
no, that's a really good point. Like that's exactly the point he's making.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like even if they're at this temple too, and he's like all these problems he's thinking was very like modern, very now centric, and like. Obviously these people are just like these, like, they have all this time in the world and stuff. Then he meets his friend. Yeah, he goes to their house. I think he goes to their friend's apartment, I think. Yeah, that's what, like, this is, like, the friend who's, like, stealing from the Red Cross,
this guy's hilarious.
Thing. Yeah, and, like, that's what's funny, too, is because... I think we learned a little later that this guy is actually from a rich family. His dad's a doctor.
We learned in this scene, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, he says it here, too.
Yeah. He's like, you come from a rich family, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Actually, and then they also, like, because the main character's like, oh, what a day. And the other guy's like, what happened? He's like, oh, what can't happen? The same routine. That's the problem. Time doesn't want to pass at all. And I just love that because it made me think of the previous scene where it's like, his, like, problems are very, like, what you just said, very... timeless problems of like here and now, versus they like see India as this very kind of like magical, mythical place. This is his reasoning for why he's stealing from the Red Cross thing. He's like, the whole country's going down, brother. If I don't suit down, you want me to be suspended in space. Which is like basically this kind of like pessimism that's entered India, But then the other friend comes, and he's like. It's kind of all insinuated because I guess he doesn't want to be too direct, but basically they're going to a film club to watch a Swedish film, and the way it cuts because he's like a Swedish film, no cuts. Yeah. And do you know why he says that? Because basically in India they still do this where they'll censor movies, from the West, especially sexual scenes. So they're going to a film club, and film clubs don't have to cut their movies because they're like private, independent. So that's why it's like Swedish film, no cuts, and
that makes more sense.
Yeah. And then so they're like that's why they're all excited. Basically, they're basically wanting to watch porn. These are like sex theaters, like the closest in India at the time they could get to.
It's like but then they go and there's like a Mark Bergman film or something.
But that's what's funny because they're watching it, and so I have this quote about what Ray wrote it because like, they're watching a movie, and you're thinking like there's these couples like running across all these beds and stuff, and they're getting excited, but then like they you can see them end up getting bored. It's like nothing happens.
Well, it's because the fucking guy keeps on following them around.
Yeah.
What kind of movie is this?
It's like some mattress store that just like making out on every bed. It's like weird. But,
it is weird shit.
But Ray said, because he had this biographer that he would talk to at the time named Mary Seton. And he said, Ray said, and Mary Seton was in London, and he actually asked her. He said, let me just read the quote. He said, quote, "I wanted more porn," said Ray. But Mary Seton, who had procured it in London, thought that this was adequate. However, he wrote to her at the time, "I had a brainwave." He reshot the boy's reaction to show Siddhartha looking thoroughly bored and his friend looking embarrassed at the letdown rather than at the porn. which is like he kind of changed it based on like the movie he got because he basically asked her for a movie from London, which like hopefully with a lot of porn he says. But this is the scene she sent. So he's like, oh, I'll just change it to where like they're disappointed that they didn't get what they wanted. You know, which is like it kind of fits the movie honestly.
It does.
But
it also makes you think like, is this really the things that people are censoring for movies whenever like the boards get them, whenever the censor boards gets them? These are really the scenes they're cutting. Like,
in India, they're very. That's why there's a lot of dancing in Indian movies because that's a way to get around sex. Basically,
it's true.
People's bodies touching and being closed and erotic, you know. Which is, you know, probably true for a lot of society, just not just movies, but just in general. You just add some music and it's like, oh, it's okay. Which I'm not opposed to.
That's why it's illegal in Footloose or whatever to have music. Is that the movie? Or is that Dirty Dancing?
Don't act like you don't know. Don't act like you don't know.
That's the plot of the movie.
It's either Footloose or Dirty Dancing.
That sounds like Footloose. Or I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Footloose.
Like they can't like listen to music.
No, the town has like outlawed music because it makes kids horny, essentially.
Damn, that's crazy.
I didn't realize that was like the plot of it.
Basically.
Besides, no one hasn't made a movie of like about rap or something. They try to ban rap.
There has to be a movie like
I feel like
that.
there has to be one, right?
We just don't know it.
It's like some like conservative ass movie. Like.
No.
Okay, but either way, next scene, like the sister. Well, actually, I kind of love this scene because they're walking out and then they're talking about like how our main character hasn't found a job yet, and this is where like the kind of women they're in the background, but they're also very much part of the movie too. Is they're talking about the sister who also has a job, and you can tell he's very, you could say salty. Where he's like basically talking about, wait, because the guy's like, your sister has a job, why don't you? And he's like, have you seen my sister? Basically, you know what he's saying, like, and he basically says he's like, academic qualification is not the only qualification. These days, the weaker sex is the stronger sex. Basically, almost like you could say like pro incel talk.
You know, I was like, it's just insecurities.
Yeah, it's very, very insecure about like women getting jobs that he's not having a job. Not only that, she's providing for the family.
Yeah,
and we're gonna see that in a little bit too. And I love how Ray, when he was talking about the author's characterization of the character, talks about the contradictions in the main character, because that's what I love about him too. Like, so we're gonna see in the next scene how he's basically this scene he spent like basically being very conservative, you could say, or traditional. Like, you know, a woman, of course, like the weaker sex has now become the stronger sex. Like, they don't use intelligence; they also use their attraction to get the jobs. Basically, you know, all these talking points. But then when he comes home, we just seen the wife of the sister's boss like crying to the mom about like basically ruining their marriage and stuff. Yeah, gossiping and stuff, insinuating that they have a relationship. And that's when like the wife had left and stuff. But then you would think the brother would take that side, but he immediately defends his sister. And it's like, oh no, she wouldn't do any of that. You know, like she's just working late. Like basically the exact opposite of the previous scene. Like he's kind of taking her side. You know, and that's what I like. That's what I love about him, because then he immediately then the sister arrives in private. He then goes back to being conservative again. He's like, so it's like it's very weird. Like that's what the contradiction. It's like he knows they need the job. He in some ways agrees with her. Like she's a modern woman. Like he's kind of modern. You know, he's very like politically modern. We see like, but or I guess politically liberal, but at the same time he has these very traditional contradictions in him, which you can say a lot of men also have. It's not just him. But like that because like it's so funny. Like she asked him about his interview, he doesn't answer. Then he asked her about like what she was doing late. She doesn't answer, and he's like, "My not telling you and you not telling me are not the same," which is so funny because like she's the one making the money, you know, like. But he's still trying to hold like all these like traditional power dynamics. Like he has all the power, but like really like what I've been saying, like he really doesn't. He hasn't accepted it. And she kind of has, you know, and that's how she acts. Like she acts like he has no power. That's what's kind of funny about this scene. You know, it's not like even compared to the big city where she ends up accepting the husband, like telling her just like she almost quits her job because of him. You know, in this one she's like, no, I'm not quitting my job. Like it doesn't matter what you guys say. Like I know we need this money. Yeah, it's like she's like a very father role. Like I know I'm doing the right thing for our family. You know, and that's what that's the kind of amoral position I was talking about.
Yeah.
that Deborah Piazzano talks about. Because she even asked that quote of like, does mom want me to leave the job? Because she's like, they're talking about how mom, don't you care about how mom makes you feel? This makes mom feel, and she's like, does mom want me to leave the job? And of course, like, she doesn't, because like I've been saying, like, they need it and stuff. But then we get a great flashback of. These flashbacks are so sudden because that's where they feel like they're very much in his mind, because that's where a lot of memories feel like to me anyway, where it's like all of a sudden you see something or hear something, all of a sudden you have this like random thought, and he has a couple with his sister. Like, this is the first one where I think it's the bird. It's the bird. Yeah. Where this is the first time where he's gonna have this call stuck in his head that he's gonna hear at the end of the movie. You could say that's maybe some hope to the ending too, or just like him hearing this bird call that he's been having in his head this whole movie is like.
Yeah. He's found there's some kind of,
I don't know, there's some kind of finding, like the hope of finding something is just like great, in itself. But
no, I love these flashbacks to his past because it's like a flashback to his simpler times whenever you don't have worries too.
Yes.
Because all these flashbacks are obviously coming in times of great worry for him, but
I think also like in the brother, and I think all the siblings are more on the same.
Yes.
Versus now they're, like I said, the movie
they've changed,
and the movie's kind of tensions are between their changes. How all of them are different, because like the next scene is the brother coming home, and he's an important character. He's now the more politically radical one, the one that the older brother, now that he has to get a job and stuff, has kind of given up. But this younger brother, he's still in like, I think he's still college age and stuff, so like he's still more radical. Because the brother even says, "You've become strange, always searching for a job has turned your life into something." And he's like, "Remember the Shea book you gave me?" And I was listening to this lecture, and I never noticed this, but she mentions how, like, the timeline, like, Ray is always super specific. Like, every great director, he's very detail-oriented, like, even stuff you never notice. And, if you look at the years, like, in the foreword of the book, the Shea book, it says 1969. This movie takes place in 1970. So basically, he's saying, like, already in a year, he's changed a lot from, like, giving his brother a Shea book to a year later, he's already very, just, like, more downbeat in terms of the world he has to accept. And, like I said, that's...
Book?
The Shea
Guevara book. He's a famous...
he's the Cuban communist revolutionary. Right?
So was he Cuban?
I think it was Cuba.
Yeah.
So he's like a communist, like, radical type.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Very, very much so.
Yes, yeah.
He's who, like, Godard loves Shea.
Okay, yes, I know he was in Cuba, but then also he's Argentine as well. But basically a lot of South American countries, too.
America hate him.
Yeah, he traveled throughout South America, but he was very popular, like, especially for being, like...
You know who Che is. We've done movies with, like, that specifically mention him.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure, like, you did Godard. Godard specifically mentions Shea.
He mentions a lot of people, though.
He does, but I
plus,
feel like
saying Godard mentions someone is, like, doesn't mean...
But, I mean, like, I feel like...
he mentions so many people.
Doesn't he have a movie about Shea?
I don't know.
What movie is about Shea Guevara?
There's a newer one about with the guy that makes more cheaper movies, but he's like really efficient. Soderbergh. I think
that's
he made
not the
one
I was thinking of.
But
I don't think we did a good.
No, it was. Was it Marker? Marker has which one is the Cuba My Love? Who did Cuba My Love? Is that a movie?
Varda? She made a documentary in Cuba.
It might be Varda.
But that was like, I don't think it was like... But we didn't do that on the pod either.
Plus, I'm not finding Cuba.
I'll find it out. I'll find it.
That'd be confused. I was like, it's like Godard said it.
But either way, yeah, he's a popular figure in socialism and communism and stuff. But
yeah, I kind of mess with that.
But yeah, that's why I like this year difference too, because basically it's showing this whole year. This year has changed so much for him already between the two brothers, and I love this quote too of his acceptance, where he says, "I will be a copier in the bureaucratic machine," and then like, but then after this scene, I think actually now that I'm thinking about it, I love talking about doing this podcast too, because it makes me like think about the scenes more directly after each other than when sometimes you might miss them in a movie where they're flowing more like seamlessly.
Yeah.
Or I can think about the scenes more in contrast. Like, so he's just had this conversation with his brother about like how he's like not revolutionary anymore. You know, like he's not like his old ways, and his younger brother is way more than he is now. And so his next scene is like, okay, at least I'm gonna kind of show my own revolution. It's like now we can go confront the boss. The next scene is him going to confront the boss of the sister. And he's like, oh, maybe he's gonna make some change that way. He's like feeling like competent. Yeah. And so but like the way this whole scene happens is so funny because like it's actually very similar to the scene in the big city where the husband is going to go confront the boss too about like the wife, like how he deals with the wife, because he at first I love these like long shots of him just sitting in the waiting room waiting for this guy, but then this guy like the boss seems so unconcerned, and like right when he's talking to the boss, like, you can tell like, oh, okay, this guy's not gonna do anything, and then like as they're talking, the boss is like, instead of your sister losing her job, wouldn't it be better for you to get a job? And he's like, let me go get a call. He's like, I can't give you a job personally, but I can get you a job. So like, it gets like similar to the big city scene where like all of a sudden the scene is flipped from him like going to like basically say how like the relationship with the sister is wrong, maybe lose her sister's job, to like getting a job from this guy. But that's where we see like his first moment of like, I don't want to describe it, but he uses the same kind of shots of where like we're gonna watch him walk away all of a sudden, where he's like thinking and all of a sudden he changes his mind, because like the guy goes to make the call, like he's like calling someone like see if he can get a job or something, and that's when he's like we get this like shot of him thinking, and he's like, no, he's not gonna accept this. And he's like, he realizes what's happening, and that's when he storms out. He's like, oh, okay, it's like at least he has a little power, he has a little kind of a, I don't know how to say it, the word I would say, he has a little integrity, I guess. There's like a quick scene of like we watch a hit and run happen.
We hit the child.
Yeah, the guy hits a child. They murder him, basically. They all storm the car of the guy. Maybe this is I don't know why. Maybe it's just a no-win situation he's trying to show. Like, because the way the camera shows it is like, we watch the hit and run. Everyone's like, "Oh, get him! He just hit a child." Then they stop the car, pull the guy out, start beating the guy up. But then the camera hangs on the daughter of the guy who's getting beat up, and she's like crying, watching this dad get beat up. It's like, now this girl has to watch her dad like almost get murdered, just from another girl getting murdered or getting hit, which is like, but then he goes to a different interview. He learns that the medical rep position he's applying for is actually just a salesman, and he's like really disappointed. Then he goes to see his friend again. And this is where like this actually where he actually basically quotes Ray. When I read that Ray quote to Mary Seton, where he's like, this is a pro-revolution film where the main character tells the friend, he's like, there's no other way out other than revolution, because he's been thinking about what the brother said. And like he kind of admits, like you can tell like this is actually, he's a little more understanding of his situation than kind of like the Middleman is the next one. But then this is actually the quote. It was actually not the Middleman, it's in the Adversary, but Blake had mentioned about there's two types of people: thinkers that only think and doers that only do. I'm not into all that thinking. I'll do what has to be done. You only think about that which you'll not do.
I'm a thinker, or you're a thinker, I'm a doer.
Yeah. This friend I love this kind of friend character too. He's like kind of like very, very carefree, even though he's the one that's going to take him to this like prostitute's house later, because he's like using makeup to like cover his like mustache growth. He says like he's like putting makeup on.
How does that like cover your?
I think he's like drawing something with black maybe.
Oh, like
on one side, because he says like it's uneven mustache growth. He says something like that. Maybe just drawing in half of it or something.
That's all he's
doing. LeBron hair fade,
That's all he's doing. Yeah.
Now Bron got that Turkish hair plug treatment.
Even though sometimes it still looks really bad, like it must.
It can't be perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, they go to this is where the next thing they go to visit the prostitute. It's actually a very long shot too of like just the kind of like environment they're going into. Because like first like this, they go to like it's like this animal shop, and that's when they're like they ask. I guess it's only chickens, but they're asking, "Oh, have you heard of this bird call?" He's like, "Oh, what does it sound like?" And he's like, "I don't know how to make a sound."
He's like, "I know it if I heard it."
Yeah. But that's when they go upstairs then to visit this woman that he's already visited. Obviously, this brothel before. Both the scenes also have very similar scenes of like these guys visiting these brothels, and it's like Ray's kind of very saying like, kind of the theme of these movies is these men can't face up to the times almost like like the way they're reacting like this is what society's created and they almost like can't accept it because like Devapriya Sanya makes the point like in this scene, and this is where I was thinking maybe this kind of maybe this is why he uses the negative here is like, because do you remember when he uses it like when she asked for Delight her cigarette,
yeah,
and he's like kind of scared, like it's like the way he's acting in the scene is so like kind of he's just a very scared guy, he's like looking down and stuff, doesn't want to look at her, and she's like very confident. I see she comes to ask for his cigarette to be lit, and like that's when it flips, like right when he lights her cig. I don't know, like, and like her the way she puts it is like basically to the main character. His ideal woman is not met by her. Like basically, this is not his ideal woman. It's just kind of like he's not able to have respect for her because of her profession. Like I said, he's not able to accept this kind of reality. And the reason why that stands out is because the next scene is when he does meet his ideal woman. It's like literally the very next scene.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he's kind of contrasting the two. Yeah. So we're still kind of seeing like, especially compared to the friend who's like very much more like just like openly talking to her and stuff. Like she's like he's like scared the whole time, and this is another case where he just like ends up leaving.
Yeah.
As the friend is like in the other room with her. Then like we get these like great wide shots of like him walking down the street, and that's when I guess ends up it's gonna end up being his girlfriend stops him in the middle of the street, and
I need help. My lights are
her lights, her fuse has gone out. Are we believing the story?
No.
No.
Too convenient.
She does say like they know each other.
Exactly.
Like, kind of.
Not
yeah,
kind
she's
of.
Like
she's like, oh, you remember me? We went to the same class together.
Yeah, same class or something.
I mean, dark is kind of scary, bro.
Dark is scary, sure.
Like that shit.
Dark is scary.
It's kind of terrifying, bro.
Okay, so Luke.
It's all your mind.
Like, what if a monster?
Luke said believe woman. That's a classic case of like.
Oh yeah, yup.
Got him. No, cause
it was light outside.
Okay, I'm sure.
I just said it's a dark ass shot when he's walking. No, it's a really because it's a great shot. It's like a street lamp in the foreground, and then you just see the small figure walking in the background.
Well, women are talking of all ears, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh my gosh! But then, because I love what she says. She's like, "Oh, they met before and stuff," and then she also says, "I also see you always walking on the street every day. You always put a serious face gazing at the road while walking." Because it makes me think back to the shots of him, like the shots I love of him walking, because like kind of puts a joke on him too. Like makes it funny at the same time.
It does.
Like I was like, they were cool earlier, and it's like now it's like kind of making fun of him. Like he's like always walking down the street, like seriously,
super serious.
Yeah. Yeah, but then
that's like, why it's not real. She knew it was coming.
Yeah, I also love like this is true with basically almost all the women in these films. It's like they're also way more confident in just like talking than the men are. Like she's basically holding the whole conversation here.
Yeah.
And she's like, she tells him to come by the next day. Basically asking him on a date, come by. That's why I'm like, but by how like forward she is, I'm like maybe she was faking it. Maybe she like put that fuse out herself or something. Because it's almost like too perfectly. She's like the rest of her family is out on a movie. And that's the reason why she was at home alone.
Exactly.
And also,
how convenient.
And if you think about it, that's the same exact excuse the other woman at the beginning of the next movie uses. The girlfriend that breaks up with him to get an arranged marriage to the doctor. She's like, he's like, how'd you get out alone? And she's like, all my friends, all my family else was at the movies. So, damn. Yeah, but anyway, then he comes home. This is another funny thing. It's like, the double standard is there, but it's not.
It's 100% there. I thought about it distinctly this time
about him coming
home at like 10, and then her coming home like 5 minutes later. And
yeah,
they're like, "Oh my god, why are you coming home late?"
And especially since he was actually alone with a woman in a house at night.
Exactly. The double standards are crazy.
Yeah. That's what's. No, but then she's like the sisters having to tell them about how she had to go to the boss's house because like it does seem like the boss is kind of a shady guy. You know, like definitely. He does seem like someone's not Siddhartha's not totally like he seems like the boss is not just like some great guy. You know, it seems like he's doing some weird shit, but he's definitely using his power. But she understands that. That's the whole point. Like she also kind of understands that. But then I love this kind of just like shot of first we get the flashback. Like she pulls his arm because you never know when these flashbacks are coming. But like she pulls his arm. All of a sudden it cuts to a flashback of how she pulled his arm like that as a kid. And then she takes him outside. She's like, "This is what I've been doing." And she's like been practicing dancing. And it's kind of a really sweet scene. You know, you'd think like him just like while his sister dances, but like
but he doesn't like this modernity.
Yes. Because let me read what this quote from Devapriya Sanyal. She says, quote, Siddhartha immediately starts imagining her as dancing with one man while other couples dance around them, and even fantasizes about her smoking. Nothing could be worse than this. While she sees dancing as liberation, Siddhartha chooses to see it as a form of licentiousness and social transgression. At each point, it is the liberal-minded Siddhartha with his views of Vietnam who emerges as the more hidebound and conservative. Evidently, there were different standards of liberalism applied for gender attitudes at home, and political radicalism might be the implication about the times, an aspect that has not been otherwise explored in Indian art cinema, but has never suffered for a lack of radical posturing. I'm basically making that point of, like, yeah, the double standards, you know, this, like... we obviously talked about this similarity even with Charlotta, with, like, the kind of liberal-minded Bengali man, like, in politics, but then at home just very conservative or just, like, not even understand what's happening to women. It's kind of just that another version of that in this movie, too.
It is.
But then, this next scene is also... that lecture I was listening to kind of made me realize what happens because we see this brother come and he's packing to go out of town, and this would be very specific to like the Bengali audience at the time, but there was basically this kind of like revolutionary movement at the time called the Naxalite movement, which was like an offset of a communist. It was like a offset of communism, a communist revolution, because they were still opposing the government, which was communist, so that's where it gets confusing. But basically, it was a kind of a pro-workers revolution called the Naxalite movement, and it was very violent. And the police violence against them was also was extremely violent. And so that gives the context to people watching this at the time. This brother is very involved in that movement. Like we've already learned once that I forgot the first time they'd mentioned it, but this time he's leaving for an out of town thing. That's what he says. He's like he's going out of town. Yeah. And what he's going to is basically this like kind of Naxalite calling that the head leader had called for in the country or whatever. And so like it's never mentioned explicitly, but like that's what makes this movie political for someone watching at the time. You know, it's like that's where this brother's going. Like they would have known. You know, like he's very involved in this. Yeah. And then that's why that explains this flashback as well, because like that's we see. Do you guys remember this flashback of the chicken? Of watching the chicken being killed.
Okay, yeah.
Because like we see how the older brother or main character, he's like really nervous when watching the chicken getting killed, but the younger brother, he's like more intrigued while watching it, and he's kind of making that he's making an insinuation that like that makes him, you know, the young brother's like more revolutionary, you know, like he was more open to just like watching killing as he's kind of just making that connection, you know, like people do with almost like serial killers and like killing animals and stuff. Because apparently Ray changed that in the book. Because in the book, the younger brother was also really scared of watching the chicken die. But he's like, Ray changed that on purpose, you know, to show him as like, maybe he's like more revolutionary minded than like the older brother is. Just like even from childhood. Or at least that's how this guy's thinking in his head, you know, like maybe he's trying to explain it that way.
Interesting. You could see that.
But this is like one of my favorite like dream sequence shots, is where the brother mentions the guillotine.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden he's like his head is like in the guillotine. The way it's shot too is like very expressionistic, almost like a German movie or something. You know, it's like this dark background,
or like
just like his head is
a fucking like George Romero movie, like almost.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I just seen clips.
I love that shot.
And it's like the way it's like the close up on the face.
No, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't watched George Romero in a while, honestly.
But I feel like you're like kind of like the expert.
I would be of the three of us. Yes, I would be of the three of us because I've seen a lot of his movies. But
or like maybe like a Stroheim Lang shot maybe too. But yeah.
Stroheim. Okay. I don't know if Stroheim does he have flashbacks like this?
I wasn't necessarily
Maybe
thinking
those.
about the flashback part.
That's why I was thinking like German expressionism kind of thing, like these kind of dreamlike ways of expressing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. This is where he has the dream shots also of like this great kind of like almost like I don't know why I think of Fellini when I think of beaches. Surrealism on a beach. I have to think of Fellini. Some surrealistic shit happened on a beach.
I can see that.
Not Katano? No, I'm just kidding.
I'll say beaches in general. I probably would say like Malik, but like.
No, but if some surrealistic.
But
shit
surrealist
happened.
on beach, I can see that. Yeah.
But this is almost like a Boonwellian scene too. Like we see like the firing squad with the brother, the sisters like modeling on the beach. Basically, all his fears kind of are happening.
Yeah.
No, this definitely is like a Fellini. Yeah, now that you mention it. Yeah.
We see like the sister as a nurse. Then he like he's basically this is where the ideal woman versus the modern woman come in, because like or the kind of amoral woman come in, because this shot is like first he's walking and he's seeing the sister as a nurse approach him. Then it cuts to the reverse shot of him looking at her. Then when it cuts back to the nurse, it's not the sister, but it's like the prostitute we just saw. Basically, kind of the two women that he's like kind of, doesn't. It's like basically scared of, I guess you could say, the more amoral modern woman that he's encountered. But it kind of leaves it at that. There's no like direct meaning or explanation behind the images. They're just kind of like these kind of fears, sort of like maybe you could say. But then it comes to oh yeah, that's when he goes to the girlfriend's house. It says he missed a day because he was sick or something, and so he comes the day after, and that's when we meet like the the father and mother coming home, or we think the mother. It ends up being like her, like not a real mom, but basically her future stepmom. Yeah. And this is where like the father like goes on this long rant about like the young men of the days, how like they're he doesn't understand what their frustration is. Like they're all still students, they don't even have like real world experience yet, so like what are they mad about? Like that kind of stuff. And that's when like the girl comes in and it's like, hey, we gotta get out of here. Like and that's when she's like basically complaining, like they're on the bus together after, and she's like complaining like about her dad, and he's like, who knows, at that age all of us might talk like that, you don't know.
It's probably true.
And I kind of love that, because like, yeah, we should keep that in mind, it's like
it's probably true.
It's probably true. She says, I hope not, I feel bad about it. What is the meaning in seeing the darker side of everything? I kind of like that. It's like,
yeah,
there is something to this movie where like Ray's also maybe saying, like, he doesn't explicitly say it, but like maybe most men do need a woman like in their life somewhere, to save them. Like I know Kierkegaard has this quote where like he says something like out of 100 men, 99 need a woman to save them, or else they'll like die or something, like something crazy. Like, and he's not necessarily wrong, but there seems to be like that's another difference between the two movies. Is like he also has this kind of girl as a hope, even in a way like that makes it easier for him to choose this job, because he can at least like write to her and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It adds a little more hope to the movie, even though it's not that like direct. Then he takes her to apparently this was the tallest tower in Calcutta at the time. I love this shot too, as they're driving by. First as they're driving by, they see the tower, but then when they're actually on the tower. No, I love the. Well, first I should say like they have this conversation. They're talking they're eating first inside, and this is like another little moment of like where he gets to seem kind of cool, because like they're driving by the tower. And she's like, oh, I've never been in there. And he's like, oh, I have a friend that works there. I can get us in. And it's like, oh, okay, damn. He's got some connection. Because the next cut is like him like sitting like he's like all like leaning back on the chair like as they're sitting. Yeah. It's like all right, it's not all bad. But then they're talking, and like I love, first of all, like this shot is stuck in my head of how he shoots her. It's like this dark black background with this like just light of like in the distance, and then like her eyes basically makes her eyes really stand out.
Yeah,
and it's like really close. And they're basically like talking like she's supposed to be like contrast to like his more pessimism, I guess. Like you could say he's like the person who sees the darker side of things. Yeah. Because like they're talking about like basically like how his brain works, like how he sees like all bodies the same. They're talking about like basically how all the bodies the same. The flesh, the bones and stuff. And that's when she's like, oh, what about that man over there? Is he the same as me? Or like, what about that woman who's like fatter?
She's a little bit
like,
more than you.
Yeah, he's like, oh, there's a little more fat. But then I should have wrote the quote down, but I forgot to. Where it's like, you could say this is where like Ray sees films and like people almost like the same way. I wish I'd wrote it down, but he's like, yes, like the bodies are the same, but where people are different, he's like the education, the temperament, the appearance, like I forget what else he says, but he says all these different things like outside of just like the physical material or what makes people different, you know. But yeah, then they cut to this like then it cuts to the outside shot where it's like it's almost like this Monte Call like shot of her walking,
it is, honestly.
like walking across the lines of the edge of the tower. As like we just see the wide shot of the background as well as she's walking. It's like damn, he's got Ray going to his back here. But like I said, this is like the tallest tower in Calcutta.
It puts Calcutta into perspective a little bit, you know. At least what he decides to shoot.
Yeah.
Like the city's fucking massive.
Even though it'd also be cool to go there today and see how different it would be.
It would be.
Probably way more towers nearby now. Like
this is no longer the tallest tower.
Yeah. But then that's basically when like they're kind of like he hasn't accepted that he's gonna have to move, but they're kind of like having this conversation like he might have to move. Where he tells her, and she also says like she's gonna move to Delhi if he ends up moving too, and he's like, will you write me letters? And she's like, you write to me first, and he's like, naturally. And like made me think of like that was like this is like pre-texting era, you know, or like before you had to worry about people texting you first or not. It's like you have to worry about if someone's gonna write a letter to you or not first, which must be way harder to like wait. I don't know. Maybe it was easier.
Yeah, it slowed down a little bit.
I don't know.
It lets the passion build, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
For days, maybe weeks on end, while the letter gets to you. Maybe it gets lost on the way. You never know.
That's probably what happened, I would assume.
But then he goes to his basically this interview that hopefully is going to save him to not moving from Calcutta.
It saves his morality.
Yes.
Probably sanity too.
But also, this was when we see him getting ready for the interview, we see it on a shelf, The History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. Yeah. That this is where I read. This was the book I got the idea to read it. Actually, and it was crazy because like this is where I love coincidences that happen. Where like I just watched this movie and I forgot like how soon after. I could probably like find Goodreads, but at the Dixon Street Bookshop, I found this book. Yeah.
Damn.
I was like, damn, like, okay, big coincidence, I have to read it now.
And that's what set you down the philosophy path?
No, I'd already kind of been interested in philosophy. Like, obviously, like, it'd be crazy just to read those. It's a huge book.
Is it, like, big?
No, it's massive, yeah. And also Bertrand Russell, like, I barely remember because it's kind of just an overview, but, like, he really hated Bergson, too, so apparently his Bergson part is like really like inflammatory and stuff. I gotta go back to it.
That sounds hilarious.
Yeah. No, but apparently there was like some jealousies too, like because I've actually learned some stuff.
I love some petty
this was a big beef back in the day.
I love like petty drama between academics.
Yes,
it's just so funny to me. Like
apparently there's some like woman stuff and like that's why.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly.
Whoa,
Bertrand Russell.
That's hilarious.
I don't remember exactly.
Like subtly dissing someone in an academic context is just hilarious. Like. Holy shit.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it. But yeah, they didn't like each other, but way off topic.
They got beef.
Yeah, this is where we're going to see the interview. I love these kind of just like, we're kind of just seeing these men wait, you know, and all these little conversations they have, which I love. Like, like one guy comes and sits down, they ask him his number, and he's like, you're going to have to wait 3 hours. And it's like, oh, fuck, damn. Like, and then, like, another guy's like, you know, in the beginning, the interviews are 5 minutes, then they're 1 minute, then they're 1.5 minutes, and they're 1 minute. And he's making the same point like we made about these studies, where it's like,
yeah,
like no one's getting an equal shot, you know, like it's like very random, you know. But like we have to pretend like everyone's getting an equal shot, and like all the system works, you know. It's like,
well, this is why I love some of the like younger guys going up and asking like, so has the decision been made internally? Like basically asking like, do we really need to be here? Like I want to get out of here if we already know we're not going to get the job. Like because they're interviewing like what 700 something people is what they said.
Well, remember like in the next movie it's even insane when they're like have 100,000 applicants for something.
The next movie goes insane with some of that shit. It's amazing.
No, but I love this like this guy who's in a suit, and so, like he's like obviously a higher standard beside everyone else. He's like pacing back and forth really confidently, and all the other guys are like watching him like, oh shit, like you could tell like they're worried about he's basically the job. Like one guy comes out of his interview, they immediately rate him. Like, oh, what questions they ask? Like history, geography, politics. Like
a little bit of everything.
we watch a guy pass out.
Yes.
Just waiting. And this is where like he's gonna have like his first little moment of like, okay, we gotta do something, like you could say this is him like his like workers moment of like, oh, we gotta stand up to the boss, we gotta have our rights.
Yeah.
And so there's actually a very similar scene, and I should have gone and looked it up in Tokyo Chorus. Do you remember with the pay? I think it's something with the pay where they're like asking for something. Damn, fuck! It's very similar where they're like, oh, we gotta go in and like basically stand up for ourselves, and then they all leave him like as he's in the room. Yeah, because
that's exactly like this.
Yeah, he's arguing with the interviewers like, we need chairs, like it's not right for like to have 300 men sitting out there, standing out there for hours in the sun. And they're like, the job's even harder than this. So if you can't do this, you can't even do the job. Like, basically, this guy, like, and like when all the other men leave and he's like arguing by himself, it's like, yeah, he's fucked. Like, then they ask him his name too.
Yeah.
And he's like, doesn't want to say his name, but it's like, he's definitely, he's probably already fucked up already because he's gonna have to come back in for the interview anyway. So I was like, no, but then he comes back out like really disappointed. It's like these great reactions of like all the other men just like knowing what they did to him, like just like, deserting him. Like the second there was like tension. But then like he lays down and he has this like daydream, and this is what the shot I was talking about. Like we've been getting these reverse shots too, like these negative shots, but now this time instead of like a negative, it's like literally skeletons in the hallway, like filmed as the camera like pans. No, just a very cinematic shot of like what he's feeling, and then
and what the business world is.
Yes.
Just waiting around to die. No, I'm just...
It feels like that.
Do you think that this ending is like actually real, or is it in his mind? Because we have had scenes of him, like all these like acts of passion, you could say. We've had scenes of those, but they've always been like daydreams, essentially.
Well, I've had two moments where he has these real moments. Like first is at the boss's office, where we think, oh, the boss is gonna give him a job, and he's like, no, I'm not doing this, and he storms out. The camera kind of moves fast with him, same way.
Yeah.
The second one is like when he leaves the prostitute's house, and he kind of is like, no, I'm not doing this,
These moments of action.
Yes, his kind of moments of revolution or whatever. And this is like the last one. So I do think it does happen, but I don't know.
Because I just think back to some earlier moments in the movie where it's just like, I think it's the boss of his sister that walks in. He's just sitting there, and then he gets up and like shoots him like 3 times or whatever. It's
okay,
because he has these like passionate thoughts, but he never acts on them. This one I could definitely see him acting on though, because it does have that definitely fast camera movement where he just storms in there. But...
Especially it's like that realization is like he's not getting this job, and then he kind of has the other job in his pocket at least. It's like at least he has this. Like no, but it is a great moment of like release. Like this is the heroic moment I was saying, where like. That tension of that idealism versus the reality of life, kind of like this, or at least we get this kind of idealistic, the cinema moment we're all cheering for, and
we get the frustration released at the very least.
Yes, like the hero kind of
like we know it's not going to change anything, but at least he gets to show his frustration at the system.
Exactly, for a moment, and then that's when it cuts to the kind of acceptance. It's not like he got a job, but the one he has to accept the job he didn't want. But he gets to write to a girl that he likes, so it's not all bad.
And he hears a bird.
And he hears the same bird. With another freeze frame.
It is, yeah.
To close, let me read what the author of the book said about the ending. Because he really liked Ray's ending, because he apparently changed the ending, but he also liked it. He said, quote, "It's a great ending when I detach myself. The dead man and the sound of the bird carry a sense of eternal life. It is elevated to another level. Siddhartha becomes immaterial at that moment. The director shifts away from him and says, now we can leave Siddhartha here and life goes on. And in life and death the world moves. And Siddhartha is just a dot." And that's the Adversary. One of my favorites. Glad to revisit after a while. We'll come back and do The Middleman. back to talk about The Middleman, made in 1975.
Five?
Yeah. So this was actually made, I think, 4 or 5 years after The Adversary. But yeah, I don't know. Let me ask you guys' thoughts first before I go. Let's start with you this time, Blake. What are your thoughts on The Middleman? I know you said it's your first time.
No, yeah, first time watching. Really, really liked it, honestly. A lot going on in the movie, again, like I say with most Satyajit Ray movies that I watched for the first time, which there have been more than I thought, honestly, that there would be on the series. But no, I do really love kind of how like this guy, he basically starts out as this kid, and everyone in the movie kind of even calls him a kid that doesn't really know the ropes of like basically the world. And so he's getting taught and shown kind of how this real world works, and his morals throughout the movie change accordingly almost. And it's a lot of times against his better judgment, because he knows that he shouldn't be doing a lot of this stuff, but he's doing it anyway. Like he even says, I'm pretty sure there's a scene in this movie where one of the bosses is like asking him like, oh, why don't you want to do this? And he's like, oh, no one in my family has ever done something like this. And he's like, oh, what? They've never done something like that? and that just makes me think of like, oh yeah, no one in your family's ever done anything that they would consider, or that your dad would consider basically like bad, quote unquote. It's just something that I don't know, but it makes me think of a lot of different things. And like I said, I do find the ending of this movie phenomenal. I think it's one of Ray's best. Just how many things you can read into like that ending is kind of crazy. Yeah, like how many different themes and just readings you can have on just what he's trying to say with that is insane. But none of it would work at the end of the day, honestly. I don't think without the lead actor being as charismatic as he is, because I think even the characters in the movie also say how charismatic he is multiple times, because he really is. Like, and to be a middleman or a pimp, you kind of have to be. So, but yeah, no, really love the movie. So.
What about you, Luke?
Yeah, I also really liked it. I agree with Blake. Like he's like I kind of like it's like he's a middleman on like multiple things. Like, and like you kind of think you said like when we were talking about the adversary, like how he's like he recognizes like what's like the faults of the system, but still like kind of engages with it, you know. But like also like he's just in a middleman spot within the like kind of like economy, I guess, or whatever you would call it. Yeah, it's too like it's definitely feels like one of his more bleaker films too. I would say too. I don't know if you agree.
Yes. No, 100%.
Like especially the ending, but yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I really liked it though. This is my first time watching.
No, I think he even said it was like his bleakest film.
It's bleak, but I like where I don't see how people could see The Adversary as funny. I do see how some people could see this movie as a little bit funny.
Oh, it is funny.
Like
it's a bleak comedy.
Yeah, like
no, yeah, comedy's bleak,
but it is bleak at the end. You can honestly see it as a comedic ending too. That's what makes it bleak. Because I do see it kind of funny after the ending, but we'll get to. But is there anything else? I think you guys both touched on it, but like. Because it's how I'm going to start, but like, what kind of society is he walking into? We kind of talked about it at The Adversary too. It's like, basically, it's like a fully corrupt society. Like even from the opening scene.
Well, didn't we have? Was it a Katana movie where we talked about like how he's a middleman in that movie too? What movie was that?
A lot of Katana movies.
But there was one specifically. It was Violent Cop. Yeah, yes. I remember us talking about this.
Yeah. They're both like in between men, basically.
Yeah, like for like higher people.
Honestly, that could be called The Middleman or The Middleman.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was like, wait, we did a movie talk. We talked about Middleman recently in some series.
No, yeah, that's why I just love this movie so much. Like, it's made me think a lot more about just the corporate world in general and how it works, and kind of like being what a middleman even is, really.
Well, and see, like the dad, I love the dad in this movie because he's the classic Ray character of like traditionalist. Like he doesn't want to accept that times are changing, but he also doesn't realize that times have always been like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
always been fucking bribes in government and businesses. Like, oh my god,
yes.
like that's why whenever the guy jokingly tells our main character like, oh, no one in your family's ever done anything bad. Like, like that's why I just like have to laugh. It's just like, yeah, like obviously this is how the world fucking works, and it sucks, but
no. I think like that's true. Like there's the corruption in the way the world's always worked. It just this movie is more about how it works in today's world, and that's kind of what he's learning in this business world. You know, like you mentioned, the different characters kind of teaching him. So before we get started in the movie, I don't have too much to say about the intro because it's kind of like both these movies have very similar themes, and I talked about a lot with the kind of two. But first, let me read Ray quote about why he decided to make this movie. He said, "quote I felt rampant corruption all around. I didn't think there was any solution. I was only waiting, perhaps subconsciously, for a story that would give me an opportunity to show this. I felt that what I was doing in the film was right and necessary, and that it was valid to the Calcutta of those days." Because he said this 10 years later. And then let me read what Andrew Robinson says about it, because I especially love this last line. But he says, quote, "In the Middleman, last of the Calcutta Trilogy, corruption has infected the very marrow of the city. Everyone is implicated, with the exception of two characters, and they are self-deluded. The whole of society is decaying. The Middleman is about deadening by society of the moral sensibility of a young man in whom it was never very strong." I love that last line of like, basically like Blake kind of mentioned this already, but like his values basically changing as he learns. But like, especially that first part, like that was what I was asking, like what's the difference between these two movies and the characters? It's like that. I think that's the difference. Is like the Adversary still has this character with a strong moral sensibility. And this one, we basically watch him lose it easily as it decays with the times. Basically, he fights. That's how I was mentioning. Like he doesn't fight back at all.
He's in the middle.
Yes, exactly. Everyone's implicated. He's literally in the middle.
So he's in the middle.
But the Bengali translation is even better. The Dalal though, because it basically means pimp. That's yeah. He kind of says that a lot.
Imagine the movie just named Pimp. That'd be like,
it would make sense.
It's just a funny title.
But that's actually what the title is in Bengali. Like if you say Dalal, like it has that double meaning of the middleman, which like how you, because the businessman even says that.
So I shouldn't go to Bengali. And
well, because it means
Dalal.
the middleman too.
Oh, okay.
Or like a middleman or something. But it, like, you know how it works.
Because that's all a pimp is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But
it's like we have just have separate words for it.
Yeah, because a pimp.
Well, it's dual meaning.
It's a dual meaning.
But I think that in this movie, Dalal, it's still heavily is implied more so as a pimp than a middleman, because he reacts like, oh, no, don't call me that. Like,
yeah. I guess it can be. Yeah. It's like one of those things probably where like the law literally means middleman, but it's like used to
describe a different profession.
Or whatever. Like but I love that last line. Like, but then also he says, everyone is implicated with the exception of two characters, and they are self-deluded. Yeah. Who are the two characters?
The father is definitely one that's self-deluded and not implicated, I don't think, but is that one of them?
Yes, that's the father. I don't know
who the second one is.
I'm thinking the sister is the other one, the older
sister. The sister?
Okay. But I'm not sure. Maybe as we talk through it.
Or is it the wait, would that be his sister-in-law though?
Sister-in-law,
kind of like the Charla relationship, because they have a very similar relationship. I feel like
the older one.
Yeah,
isn't that just his sister?
I thought that might have been his brother's wife.
Oh, is it? Maybe,
because their relationship reminded me of Charlotte a little bit. Just like they're telling each other things that they wouldn't usually say to like other people. But
it might be. But another reason as I've rewatched this movie over again, and I've liked it like basically more every time, is this is like literally seen as basically all the different faces we see. They're very realistic faces, like all these different like Indian businessmen.
This has probably the greatest like interview sequence. I think like it's one of my. I think it's probably my favorite in cinema that I've seen to date.
Both of these have great.
I'm trying to think of what interviews, like some of my favorite.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones. I'd have to think of
Godard has a lot though.
Okay. I mean, the Adversary has amazing interviews themselves, but the sequence in this is just like so funny, like because it perfectly encapsulates how ridiculous it is searching for a new job.
Yes.
Can't wait.
But Penelope Houston, she wrote for the Sight and Sound critic, maybe New York, I forgot. At the time, I mentioned her as like she was a huge Ray fan. She says, quote, "Few of Ray's films have offered so wide a range of quick, exact characterizations." I love that. Like just we don't see them a lot of time on screen, but like just like the way their faces are, like how they even act a little bit, you know, their kind of reactions just in little moments, like we kind of get so much from them. They're just like such a great filmmaker because of that. And then, but before we start the movie, I just want to mention, like, kind of rebrief, like I mentioned earlier, the same amoral, what Deborah Priya-Sanyal said about the amoral woman, because like in this one it's even more like it's way more of a contrast there, because like normally if we see like a kind of a like at the ending with the Drutika, the prostitute, it would be more of like she'd either be a victim or a like either like she in the book she would say she would either be a victim or seductress, basically one of those two, you know. And in this one she's neither. She's very amoral, you know. Like I said, she's kind of a more accepting of it. And so, and why she is what she says is, quote, Ray's particular portrayal of the amoral woman is indictment of the milieu and the moral crisis that surrounds it. And that's basically just like, when we're watching her on the screen, we know not to judge her because we see her as a product of society or the system, right? Yeah. We kind of, that's basically what this whole movie's about, you know, like how society's led her here. And she basically has that kind of understanding, you know, as we're watching that last scene. And he kind of doesn't. You know, he's still having this kind of moral crisis, which is like, yes, it's inside of him, but it's like not affecting, like it doesn't affect anything in reality. You know, reality still happens. Yeah, and he just accepts it. And this is what makes it a kind of moral movie. So, and then we'll start into the movie is in the example she's using is this movie called Sholay, which is a popular Hindi movie. I think it's actually pretty popular in Letterboxd too, but she's using that as the classical mainstream movie with the clear lines of good and evil. So let me read the quote is, quote, to elaborate, we do not need the notion of morality to judge Gabbar in Sholay, since good and bad are Manichaean divisions in the film. In popular films like Sholay, people are good or evil intrinsically, and that dictates their actions a priori instead. But in Jana Aranya, Somnath is caught in a moral dilemma that necessitates a choice. And then this is my favorite line, as she says, quote, the solution Ray opts for, Somnath's choice, is indicative of citizens forced into ways by social conditions. And that's basically the point of, like, the same way she is, like, by the end of the movie, he's had to make the same choice she is, right? It's like, he's basically forced into these choices by social conditions. And us as the audience are kind of having to accept that too. You know, like, we don't see him as purely evil when he makes that choice. You know, we kind of see it as, like, he's almost stuck in the situation. He's literally in the middle, you know? Yeah. And we thought that was a good thing at the first. Like, he thought he had all this control at the beginning when he was on both sides. But then we see very quickly, it's like, he's basically losing control on both sides, like, in the situation, you know? Yeah. I love that, just the delineation of, like, what a moral movie is versus, like, a kind of mainstream traditional, like, morality. How a movie that approaches good and evil is just clear delineations, because that's one of the things that annoys me most about just normal movies, you know? It's like, when the character's already decided at the beginning or end, you know? It doesn't make them interesting, to me anyway. At least most of the time. Obviously, I like movies like that too, but...
That's why he likes Batman so much, you know?
Yeah, you know...
He's this villainous character that's really good. He's really a hero.
Yes.
He's a fascist, but he's
good. Batman? Okay.
Wait, Batman.
Batman's not fascist. What's fascist?
Isn't he like the way like he like goes about stuff?
Luke's like, don't put me on the spot.
I'm just not pissed about that. That's why I've heard people say that.
I mean, a lot of superheroes then are, right?
Probably.
I guess. I guess he's more human
though. Pedro Costa said superhero movies are fascist.
The whole thing is most
not
superheroes.
Batman,
oh wait, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it's not Marvel. Huh?
Most superheroes are fighting for the states.
Is that fascist?
They are weapons of mass destruction.
Oh yeah, that's not good. I don't like mass destruction.
No, that's the big thing with like Superman. Is like that's why like a lot of the Batman stuff is actually kind of cool. It's because like Batman notices this about the government trying to control superheroes, and Superman just doesn't. He's the U.S.'s pawn. No, I'm just kidding.
That is the theme of like The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And I like
Regardless, yes.
Yeah, we talked about the Dark Knight Returns of this Satyajit Ray, so it's just funny.
Not Dark Knight though, a different one.
It's just funny. It's just like the most random ass like.
And Dany didn't bring it up this time, to be fair.
Not random. It's a very relative. I'll bring it up again later. In my notes. No, no, but I actually do like. Okay, to start the Middleman. I do like how this movie starts, also in silence. I just love like I mentioned in the last one too, like the kind of more silent, little less. The way that he's experimenting is different, you know. With the camera and stuff. It's less classical. I kind of like it. No, I actually really like it. But I just love the silence, too, in this opening scene. It'll mirror the kind of silence I love in the ending scenes, too. It just makes you sit with, like, what's actually going on instead of, like, kind of copping you out with... This is actually another... Now I'm thinking about it. She doesn't mention it at all, but, like, music is a very key factor in making us feel about these good and evil intrinsic natures. Yeah, it's like, when the evil character's coming on screen, even before they come on screen, when we see their house... the evil theme music will play, you know, and then when we see the good person, it's like, I'm thinking Darth Vader or something. Like then the good music will play before we even see Luke or whatever.
Me
and those you.
And then the character will be like me, like. No, but then like the silence is also because like it's not only silent because like give us the mood of the movie, but also it's silent because they're taking an exam. But then we see right away. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but because you guys to be watching, but we're watching these kids cheat, like openly on these tests.
It's hilarious.
The way the camera's like literally going over each kid.
And the one kid with the fucking book out.
Yeah.
Like,
one of them
has a book. See this?
One of them has like all of his notes sheets right out, like next to him, and he's copying exactly.
It's so funny.
And like I didn't talk about too much of it, but like this was actually a known thing in India at the time, where like the government itself was openly encouraging cheating to get like more people into their ranks, basically like basically to like get more people. And there was like apparently some like huge thing with like one of the colleges where like a lot of the teachers fought back, whatever. I don't know, like it was a lot of history I don't know about. I have to do more research. But basically Ray's kind of commenting on this kind of corruption that he saw around him at the time. It was like because like the teachers also are watching it. They don't care, you know, because they know that this is part of the game. This is part of it. And because this is another like funny part of the movie too is like the teacher is like finally he sees like maybe it's like the crossing line because they're literally like crossing the row when like
they're like throwing the cigarettes with like the notes in them across the
and stuff. They're like, hey, what's going on? And then one of the I think it's the friend character. He yells exams, and they all just start laughing like they all know it's a joke basically. And like the way the camera, I think it freeze frames too.
It does
on their laughing, or the freeze frames on all of like different laughing, like basically seeing like how the students see it as a joke. You know, these exams are not like serious, but they're serious in terms of how they're gonna get jobs and stuff, which makes it like just that much cruel. But then we see him come home. No, actually, we see him receive the grades first.
Yeah.
Already, we're seeing little moments of like corruption. You say because he has to pay like 25 paisa. They say for him to get his grades first, or he doesn't have to wait for the long line. He passes, but with no honors, so that's kind of a disappointment to him. He comes home to his father, who can't believe his grade. It's like so bad. And they even talk about like apparently you can pay to get your exam rechecked, but like is that even worth it?
Well, the brother's like why would you do that? They're not gonna say that
they don't want to admit they're wrong.
Like
so like he's basically saying they'll just take your money for and not do anything.
I love how the brother, because the dad's just like, how'd you not have any troubles passing with honor? He's like, it was a different day back whenever I did. If I did it whenever he was doing it, I would have probably failed or something.
No, that is true. No, because the older brother is also like more. He's like he says to the father, "We have to accept things as they are."
Yeah. Well, the older brother is definitely like a lot more. His morals are definitely more malleable. Also.
Yes.
Because I think he takes bribes.
Well, he's having a good distinction is he's having to work in this world.
Yeah.
And it's a good dinner conversation later that they'll have. It's kind of it goes over that, but we also meet the sister character in this scene too, and I hadn't thought about this, but Deborah Priya Sanjal, let me read what she said. She says, Kamala, that's the sister's name, is Kamala at the same time acts as Somnath's mother, older sister, friend, and confidant. She also acts as the perfect foil to Somnath's father, since she softens his domineering presence through her light touch. And like that actually goes exactly what you were saying with like the kind of Charlotte relationship too.
Yeah.
Like, basically the different roles she plays too in this one. for him. But yeah, like there's a kind of we hear these kind of like student revolutions in the background where the older brother is talking about how like all the students have the vice chancellor of the college like trapped in a room.
Yeah.
That happens in a movie, the Jerry Lewis movie. Don't they trap someone in a room?
Huh?
Oh, it's not Jerry Lewis. What movie is it where they? No, it's the Godard movie.
Where they trap someone in the room?
Yes.
Trap who in the room?
A teacher? I guess.
What's the movie where the Godard movie is where it's like shot like the Jerry Lewis shot, the dollhouse?
Oh, Tout Va Bien.
Yes, I think it's in that one.
Oh, yeah, in the factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny, you said Jerry Lewis. I mean, Jerry Lewis, he literally is aging Jerry Lewis.
No, it's already filmed like that too.
No, literally.
Kind of shot. That's what I was thinking. I was like, damn, I thought it was Jerry Lewis movie at first. I was like, oh, I know, he wouldn't. He's too mainstream and conservative and traditional and not Chaplin-esque enough to do something like that.
Chaplin would not do anything like Tout Va Bien.
Chaplin would film like a guy getting stuck, getting trapped in a president getting trapped in a room by students.
In a funny way, yes,
Would.
it would be
like,
hilarious.
The tramp would like accidentally stumble upon it and be a part of the.
It would be hilarious.
Be the leader.
Yeah. Well, there's that scene where he's like accidentally at the head of the strike or like the marching procession.
Oh
like,
yeah, in modern times. Yeah.
He's definitely also.
Doesn't he come out of like a manhole?
It's just so crazy. You said
He does.
What did you say? It was like as good as City Lights in the modern times.
Bellboy.
Okay, I saw.
No, it was Lay's, man. Wasn't it?
No, it was Bellboy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. I haven't seen Bellboy yet.
It's still
I was gonna
not.
be like, is this a ladies' man? Like,
It's still not.
we'll have to
as
pause
good
it.
as
Like, we just had a
do.
quick conversation.
Lazyland's amazing.
It's good.
It's a fantastic film. Anyway, let's carry on.
Yeah, let's carry on.
With Satyajit Ray.
But then we're gonna have like this is where I was saying this is maybe another key like distinction between the two movies of why this one feels more hopeless. I don't even know if Ray would say this, but I kind of read it that way. Is in the last movie, a girl comes in the kind of second to thirdish act and kind of gives him hope. You know, this one he basically loses his hope where the girlfriend comes and breaks up with him and gets the arranged marriage. And you could say that even adds to his more kind of cynicism throughout the movie, you know, where like he's kind of more willing to just like I don't know, just let things go as they are. I don't know exactly how to say it, but there's a reason why this one happens early in the movie.
I also love how he's lying to her in this moment. He's like, "Yeah, I graduated with honors. $300 or 300 rupees a month. It's set up starring this."
No. He does lie about that. I don't know if he lies about him getting the honors though. He says, "What do you think? Do you think I got honors?"
Okay.
And because I think then he's like, "No, I didn't."
I thought that
he's like,
said
he says like he was 7 points shy or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like, what do you think? He's like, "Oh yeah, of course you did" or something. He's like, "No, I got 7 points shy." No, but he's like, "But you can tell your parents someone that's practically settled." Because he's like,
"Are you sure that wasn't the sister?"
Is it?
I can't remember because I think in this one she like the girlfriend's basically just saying like everything she's telling him is like at least it's happening on a good day for you. That's what I remember from the scene.
No, because he does say that he has a job that's like has 300
Yeah.
rupees a month already. I don't know. You might be right. I don't know. I know. Yeah, I don't know.
Regardless, doesn't change much.
Yeah, it doesn't change much, but no,
she's
but then,
she's definitely an interesting character because it's just like it's
also,
weird.
Also,
it's weird.
Honestly, it's almost like I can see why like, she's trying to be nice and stuff.
Yeah.
But from his perspective, it is kind of cool. Like especially the letters he's gonna get later, where like she's like happy in like this town with like a kid and stuff, and he just like he's like shakes his head and tears him up. He tears the letter up and stuff.
Bro, that was funny as shit.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
No, some of these are just like damn.
No, but it's just interesting because like a lot of Ray's movies has the women being obviously way more like progressive.
Yes.
But this one is like she was being more progressive. Like she was like looking for her own like mate essentially or husband, and then she just like goes back on it and falls back and accepts an arranged marriage
To a doctor
because her dad made a scene essentially.
Yeah, and part of it is because like some not this so behind like it's going to take you years to get settled and stuff, and you know this is like very especially in India like a very traditional thing for women.
Yeah.
Honestly, we kind of like this is obviously not what this movie's about. We mentioned this in the World of Apu though, where like it's like seen from his perspective. He's like, "Oh, how could anyone understand what I'm going through?"
Yeah.
But then she's like, obviously, like, it's even way worse for her because she's not even getting the choice.
Yeah.
You know? but like he can't even see it from that perspective, really. No, but then we see it comes home, and this is where like there's just this funny scenes. Like, of course, now that we have computers and like typewriters where we can just easily backspace and stuff, we don't get the pain of like when you were typing, you mess something up.
Oh yeah.
And like we see like how long like he's having like fucking like trying to erase it and stuff, and then he like smudges it, and that's when he like freaks out and he like, just like falls off the chair. I was like, damn, because I mess up all the time. Like, I'm just like fucking mess up. I don't even care about spelling, so I'm just like, I'm like if I can read the word,
spell check got
like,
me, bro.
No, literally, if you look at yeah, I just don't care about spelling. So I was like, as long as I can read it,
as long as it's legible.
Yeah, as long as I can read it and stuff. Yeah. Like, have you seen those paragraphs of like? The whole paragraph, every word will be changed except for the first and last letter of every word. Yeah. And you'll be able to read it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about spelling, basically.
That's how the human brain works.
Yeah. So as long as I get what's going on.
Although, okay, if you're doing if you get a typewriter, say you get one, are you doing like the shining thing first? Is it the first thing you're typing out? Like.
That's a good idea. No.
Like,
I'll probably do the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Stick with the classics.
get those fingers warmed up.
Yeah. Those do look fun to type on.
Not like the noise
they do.
Like,
yeah, like the analog, like you're actually like typing, the ink is hitting something. It's just crazy.
Kind of scary though.
Yeah, it's like something feels like it's gonna mess up at any moment. Like I'll feel so nervous.
Yeah, you.
No, like something with the machine. Like.
I want to go into one of my college lectures and just like instead of bringing out my computer, bring up a typewriter.
Bro, you get murdered.
Isn't there's a typewriter in 400 Blows, right? That they steal.
Yeah.
They also like heavy as fuck.
Yeah, it's the 400 Blows that they steal a typewriter.
Yeah. Can't be like too heavy though.
But I'd love this montage to go back to the movie. I love this montage after we finally I think he ends up actually going to a different place to get this application filled out. Because like he ends up not doing it himself.
It's just the one. Is that just the one guy on the side of the street like hawking his application basically?
Something like that.
Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, something like that.
Kind of crazy.
But then like there's a cut of like we find out where the father. You compared him like this is the classic Ray old guy traditional character. But I do like how he's a little more modern, where he seems like he wants to be more understanding.
Okay,
like
that's fair at the very least.
He's trying to understand.
Yeah,
he just seems like very. It's sad because he just doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
but he's like trying to understand. Like he's talking like he has the scene where he's like talking about he wants to read more.
It's just sad that he doesn't realize that this has always gone on, basically.
Or how bad it really is now.
Yeah,
like he can't even believe like some of the stuff how bad it is because but like at this part where he finds out about the 100,000 applications got submitted, he's like he says no wonder the boys are rebelling. Like that's a line what some of the older characters would not have said. But then and like this guy even gets mad where he's like the older son calls him old and he's like I'm not old, like the people that are old are like who are on the Ganges like who can barely move and stuff, like I'm still young, which I kind of like this energy from this guy, at least he's trying to learn. Because this is where he says a good line where he's like, boys who don't get jobs only have two choices. They either turn into revolutionaries or go off the deep end. And he's like kind of worried about his son, obviously. And then there's this scene where he's talking to his sister-in-law, I guess, where they talk about like the girl that broke up with him. Then the next day, this is a weird scene where I think they're talking to. I think he's a congressman or something. I forget exactly what they say. I'm pretty sure he's a congressman.
It's the guy he slips on the banana peel with. Oh no, okay.
No, this is where he's with his friend, and he's like, the way you remember him is if you remember how long he scratches his ear. I don't know if you guys remember this guy, but I'm pretty sure he's a congressman because he's like talking about he's like
how long he scratches his ear.
It's just so funny. He's like he like scratches it so long with his face. I think it's I think it's after that. But no, because he's like I think the reason why he's there because he's supposed to be a political figure, and he basically blames both the younger and older generations for the problems, and like he doesn't want to take accountability himself. Because he's like blaming the younger generation for not seeing and like the real issues and stuff, and he's like young men aren't the only ones with problems and stuff. And it's just this funny shot, like his voice raises while he's like scratches his ear, like while he's talking and stuff. He's just like kind of making him a joke too, like while he's talking. And that's like a politician saying like he's like, won't you forego a little for your country? We've all done it. Of course, new jobs are coming. He's like promising new jobs and stuff. But then we get the montage of this is where like I think you were saying he was like hawking out his application and stuff instead of applying for all these jobs. This is where I think this is the interview scene you're talking about. This montage of interviews.
I love this montage. If
this is the one, like the speed of light.
Yes.
Who wrote
this?
Monday Natrum?
So many
what year did Tagore win the
questions.
Nobel Prize? What's the smallest state? What's the largest living creature? And then the way this is my favorite one. The way he says it too is like, what is the way to the moon?
What is the way to the moon? He's like, what?
Yeah. Actually, okay. Now that I fucking remember that, have you guys watched The Office?
Yeah.
Like the first.
Do you remember like right after
Michael?
Michael leaves, like the interviewing scenes
Yeah.
episodes where they ask like it's a very similar question.
What's
like,
the distance from the moon to the sun or something?
Yeah, from here to the moon.
Yeah,
like how many car doors?
That.
There's
yeah.
like
I don't know. Yeah.
It's like very similar to this one.
Honestly. It is.
Damn, now it's like crazy. They stole it.
Okay.
Actually, I mean, this is kind of related, but apparently, I think Deva Priya Sanya mentioned this that the Apu name from The Simpsons is from the Apu trilogy. Like the characters got that name from Ray's movies.
The racist characters?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Technically, the moon doesn't weigh anything at all.
I mean, yeah, it's in space. That's that like.
It has mass though.
Whenever.
What's its mass?
Approximately 7.3476 times 10 to the 22nd.
Whenever they asked this question, his reaction was my exact reaction. Like, what?
Well, because he says, what does that do with the job?
Yeah.
He's like, what does that do with the job? He's like, that's not for you to decide.
That's not for you to
And his
decide.
reaction is just like, maybe the funniest part of the movie, because he's like, he just puts his head down. He's like, I can't.
Exactly. It's so good.
Yeah, no, he puts both of his. He puts his hand in his like nose and like his glasses. He's like, oh, I can't. He like shakes his head. It's like such a great reaction.
But yes, the montage of interviews though, that was my favorite
Yes.
part because it's just like whenever he gets to the point of they just putting the faces and the specific
Yes.
question they're asking, I was like, I love this.
No, and I took screenshots of all these different faces too because I was like, it just all these like old Indian guys. I just love it. Like, especially all these big, huge ass glasses that we're into. A lot of them. I don't know. It just like that's why it's like Ray. He's not hating on these characters too. It's very like at the end of the day, he's like a filmmaker that loves faces and stuff too at the same time. So it's not just like evil characters, but at the same time, it's just that's what makes it a comedy too. It's not just bleak, but it's like a lot of things. But this is like my maybe in terms of like the structure of the movie, maybe my favorite kind of poetic moment is like it's almost like a Keaton moment of the falling on the banana peel. But,
okay.
But it kind of means so much, like in terms of like he just seen him go through so much to try to get a job. Like he's filled out all these applications, done all these meaningless interviews and stuff, and then the way he ends up actually getting a job is this guy ends up accidentally dropping a banana peel. He falls on it, and that's how he stumbles upon this guy. Who's like he ends up knowing, or he probably sort of walk right by him.
I do just love.
It's just like kind of perfect.
I just love the conversation this man is having with the banana vendor too. He's just like, oh, I heard that some people don't try their products or whatever before this. Do you try your bananas before you eat them? And he's just like, the guy just looks at him. He's like laughs. I don't know. Funny as shit.
No, that is funny. No, that's why I'm like I love these guys. These that's where like the Penelope Houston quote where she's like. He's so precise and exact with these characterizations. It's like so perfect. Like it's like one conversation with this banana peel. Like, oh, I get this guy. It's
so
like,
good.
I know this guy's really
yeah, he's like very. Then that's when he's like he starts talking to the main character, and they're like walking. I love this quote where he's like, "Watch your steps. There are pitfalls all around. There are 3 kinds of roads here: bad, very bad, and very very bad." And that's like there's also this like. Actually, this happened in the Kiarostami movie, which is what I was thinking about. But it also happens in this movie really fast, where it's like... I mentioned this, where it's like one of my favorite shots now in cinema, where we get the kind of wide shot where characters are talking in voiceover. And it's like almost just, I don't know, just like very feels like poetic to me. But,
In what movie?
In this one.
In this one, okay.
It's like where they're driving, and it's just shots of like the kind of huge like markets that they're driving by in the car.
Okay.
And he's like talking about like the goddess of fortune. Oh, he's like, you see these buildings? This is where the goddess of fortune lives. Thousands of rupees change hands here. Those who can grab them, and that's like just basically a pan across like all these like buildings, Kiarostami also had one like that. I was like, that's what I was thinking about the same thing down. But then That's when this guy tells him, "Oh, this is like the perfect time for you to get into business. You know, like you have no family, girlfriend, like you can basically take these risks now." And he's like, "Let me go talk to my father first and discuss with him before." And that's when the father's like, father has this, the traditional proposition. He's like, "I have a marriage proposition for you. You can own a cement shop if you take it." And I kind of like his answer too, because he's like, "I don't like it. It's kind of a surrender." So at least at this point in the movie, where he's like, he still feels like he's trying to do something himself. At least like
he still has those ideals or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But that's when the father's like, "We've never had anyone in business," but he kind of just has to. He's like, he accepts it. He's like, "I'll try to get used to the idea." See, that's why I'm like, this is different than like how the older guy reacts in the big city.
Yeah, it is.
Where it's like he doesn't even want to try to adjust.
Where he just goes in the silent treatment for 2 months in a row.
But that's when next day he goes to the office. That's when I just like, this is where like the first time I watched this movie, I was way more tied to the book of linear narrative, and like even though this one plot wise, there's actually a lot of plot in this movie, you could say, or like more kind of like straightforward A to B stuff.
Yeah.
But I just love the kind of just like environment characterizations, almost like the nothingness that's going on of like just like these details.
It's very A to B, but every place that you get to, they're just lounging around for.
It's a lot of detail, like very detailed stuff of like getting explained of like he's on the elevator, he runs into this guy who like his business is turning colonial mansions into high-rise apartments. Yeah. So there's already something there about changing the old India into like the new India kind of thing, just already there. Yeah. But then like just meeting this guy as in the elevator, then he comes up. That's when he gets explained to by the
I need to see. I need to see some of these remodeled. Honestly, that like colonial mansions into high-rise apartments. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. the way this guy's like selling.
The way he's selling it makes me want to look at it.
But even like in this building or whatever, he's like the British bathroom is something to see. Like fantastic toilets. And like even the toilets. Something.
Yeah. But then. Yeah, he's like explaining how basically you rent the desk out in this building. At that point, you get to do whatever you want. It's your own thing. He's like the easiest business to get into is ordering supply, which is middleman. Like there's a business that has a supply, there's another business that needs supply. You take it from one or the other. And he's like you in the middle, the dalal, and like even the way the guy says it, he kind of says it with this kind of intonation, like there's a double meaning. Like he knows the double meaning there. I love his explanation of like there's a guy with like this. You have to have multiple companies to quote prices. Like that guy over there, he has 11 companies. I have 3. He's like, wait, why? And he's like, so when a client calls and asks you to compare prices with another company, you could just list another one of your companies as the prices, so you'll never have price. You can always beat your prices. I was like, damn, like that's kind of funny.
Just work with the system.
Yeah. Basically, giving him all these different ways, like to explain to him like tax. They describe tax letters as love letters. And there's a different old guy that's like really
this old
into
guy.
him. I like this guy. This is the one that's like he's also really into helping him just for no reason. It almost reminds me of like a pickpocket or a. There's some Rasan movies where it's like characters help for like just like
he gives
no specific reason.
I feel like he gives a good old guy reason where it's just like he gives the reason like you're smart, you're just stupid for now. Like you don't know what to do right now. Like, but you're like a smart guy.
I think he says that later.
So,
he tells that to him later. Yeah,
he does.
Yeah.
Because that's a very old guy reason to why he would want to help a young guy out. Like I know you can do it. You just need a little bit of help. Like
I don't know. I've always noticed that moments in movies because like usually like when someone a character helps, it's like there's something plot related or I don't know. I just like those little moments. I've kind of noticed that, But yeah, then like the scene ends though with this friend character. We think he's like, we see multiple characters tell him this, where he's like, "Don't expect my help. Like at the end of the day, I could cheat you just like anyone else." And he's like, "If you get into trouble, you have to clean up your own mess. I'm just a launching pad for you." Kind of being like, "You're on your own still. I'm not at the end of the day." And that's when like we see like his kind of first like his first successes, at least the beginning of like him getting paper from A to B. Use via his like someone he knows. So like of course his first connection is someone he knows, and he goes and sells papers to him. And the guy like promises, "Oh, I'll buy envelopes from you in a few days." And that should already tell you like, oh shit, it's gonna be a few days. Maybe something's gonna wrong. But he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll trust you. In a few days you'll buy them." But then after that he goes to his friend's house, And that's when like we've learned like the friend's been hiding in his house all this time, and that's why, because like he like lives in a really small house with like I think he has like three siblings too. I also love. I've already mentioned this multiple times. Like I'm calling this like the Tokyo Twilight shot in my head, is where you get like a silhouette of someone behind something, but then the front foreground is still brightly lit. So it's kind of like a weird like. It's like a silhouette, but you still have a bright screen almost, or like a bright foreground, and you get one. Darkness. Yeah, and it kind of like almost like a it's like a weird contrast. It always sticks in my head. In this one, you get a great one of like the sister. Because like we don't realize she's going to be an important character to the very last scene, but it's like it's a great introduction to her too. Because like we see her behind the silhouette curtain for a while too before she finally comes out. And that's when like he's talking to the friend. We see the friend and them go outside, and that's when we see like all these guys like across the street just like watching her change and stuff. And I kind of love like this guy's reaction to the friend's reaction. Where he's just like, you could tell he's like super disappointed in his situation. He's like, sometimes I feel like I'm just going to the moon. Yeah. And the friend's like, why don't you just like find a different job or something? And he's like, I couldn't sit at a desk and work. He said something like that. He's like going to be a taxi cab driver instead, even though he has a degree and everything. But then he goes to the next night. He goes to the office again, and this is when he learns like he's already gotten cheated once because we learned that the person he bought paper from, when he had gone to buy paper, he told them, the company, that he was selling the paper to. And he's like, you should never have told them that, because the paper company went direct and sold him envelopes the next day, and he learned he just lost the sale. Yeah. And that's like he learns. He's like, first rule is never show your cards or you're a goner. That's a motto to keep on your desk. And that's when this is the quote where that older guy is like, "There's something appealing about you," and he's like, "Oh, helpless." And he's like, "Yes, but not forever."
Yes,
like,
but
that's
not
a good
forever.
way to put it. Yeah. He's like, "You're not helpless. You're not hopeless forever." You know.
Exactly.
He's Amazon. You know.
But this is Amazon.
The way they're like kind of like the middleman between different products. You can probably buy the products directly, and they're like cheaper.
But see, that's the thing. Amazon kind of sees them like. I guess Amazon is a middleman, but like. They also took out the middleman.
Yeah, they did take out the middleman. They're all of it. They're distributor and middleman. They did what this company did or whatever, and just went and sold directly to the buyer. Because they also manufacture a lot of their own shit now too. So
that's true.
But let's not give them credit though. I'm not giving.
I'm not giving them credit. I'm just saying that's what they're doing.
We don't mess with Jeff Bezos over here.
I have Amazon, but
I mean, no, I have Amazon Prime too. But like, I still fuck the corporation. Like,
but that free 2-day shipping or whatever is pretty nice. 1-day shipping, I guess.
I like it when it's convenient.
Anyway.
Our morals are very malleable. Wait, was that tweet that you brought up at the very beginning of this? Like, I'm a socialist until that first check hits the bank or whatever. Like.
Once I touch a little bit of bread, socialist act is over.
But speaking of variable morals, we get a cut to maybe one of my favorite Ray characters, Robbie Ghost. This is what I was talking about. The
Mr. Meter or whatever, Miter.
Yeah, Mr. Miter. I forgot his name in this movie. Mitter or something.
I remember his name because it's so weird. Miter, I think.
No, but I love this kind of he's basically going to be the how do they describe him? I forgot what they say.
He's fuck. How did they describe him?
It's like basically he's like he's basically the pro, because the friend who's been helping him all this time, he's trying to help him. He's like, if you're trying to get your way, in business, he's like, first you have to find a man's weak spot, and he's like, then he's like makes jokes. It's like mostly it's a matter of liquor. After he gets asked, how do you do that? Yeah. But he's like, if that doesn't work, this is when you call in Robbie Ghosh, or the Mr. Miter. He's the pro that he says like never forgets a face. Basically, he's supposed to be like the kind of I seem like almost like an agent or something, like for like a lot of, he'd be like an agent of for like celebrities or athletes or something, He's like a procurator, like he can get you anything and stuff. But like, I think they describe him. I forgot how they describe him. But anyway, I think his next thing... I love how random the items he picks, too, to sell. Like, paper, that's not that random, but then his next one is optical whitener. I forgot even how he gets to that one. Yeah. But anyway, he goes... yeah, that's when he goes and gets some samples to sell. He goes back and he sees the high-rise condo guy. That's how I have in my notes. And that's when he gives him a commission for telling him about the colonial house that he didn't even remember telling him about. And he's like, damn, that's kind of nice. But then like when he gets the money, he gives him the guy gives him the money, and he's like, right, he just puts it in his bag, and he's like, oh shit, he's like, you should have counted that right away, because it's like another kind of advice. It's almost like ironic because it's like people being nice to him, but telling him the opposite advice of people are never nice to you, don't trust anyone, which is kind of like almost like a joke, and so that makes it sweet but also funny too, I guess, because he's like, count what you give and count what you get. Remember, people are always looking for a chance to cheat you, including me. It's just funny to say that. He's like, plus he never does. I don't know if he does actually count the money there, but maybe he did cheat.
He does.
Oh, he does. Okay.
Well, he counts it after he tells
him. Okay. Yeah. It'd be funny if he did cheat him.
Well, it'd be funny if this guy gave like all the people he gave money to like one chance in the same morning just to have fun, basically. And then he tries to cheat them later.
But then he comes home. He's like basically bragging. This is where he's like bragging to his sister. He's like, business is going well. He's making money at this point. He's already moved on to optical whitener. But this is his sister telling him the father's worried about him, like getting into business and stuff. But he doesn't really seem that concerned about it. This is also the same scene where he tears up the letter he gets from the girlfriend that says, "I hope you're doing well." But he's like on vacation
with a baby.
Yeah, with a baby. That's when he next day he meets this guy to sell the optical whitener to at a textile mill. That took him apparently 2.5 hours to get there on like buses. And the guy's like, "Oh, it only takes 30 minutes by car." And that's when he gets a ride home in the car. Yeah. This one's like a weird scene. Like we only realize this importance of the scene later. So at the time you're like, "Oh, this is kind of pointless. Like we're just watching this guy drive." But it's like these small details, like because like we're watching him drive. He mentions he's like, "Oh, I saw there was a holy man in your office. Is that for you?" And he's like, "Oh, no, that's my wife put that there." And like it kind of leaves it there. And then we're gonna see that information gonna come back later. Like Robbie Ghost is like, "Oh, he'll use anything," But then the next scene is like this kind of this is where we get the most like dramatic lighting in the movie. Most of the movie's kind of been brightly lit for the most part. Now we're gonna start getting more dramatic lighting. But this one especially with the dinner scene,
like the shadows and
it's like more like classically like dramatic, almost like a theater or something. Like they're sitting at this table, she's like fanning them, and they're talking about this is where they're talking about bribes. And he's like, he's like really shocked about bribery and stuff. Like the father's like,
it kind of looks like the Bigger Than Life shot, like it's shot from like Bigger Than Life, because like with the
shadows,
the
dramatic lighting at the dinner table and stuff.
Yeah, with like the big ass shadows in the
honestly,
back,
kind of like this one's less about the family dynamic, but just basically
just the shot.
Yeah. I was trying to see if I could make a connection.
I was just talking about the shot.
No, but that's where like he's like, is bribery everywhere, and it's like one of my favorite quotes in the movie. Is like the son says, "It was always, father. There's a Sanskrit word for bribe. It dates back to ancient times. Bribery, sex, violence, drinking—they're all traditional."
Exactly.
No, I love that quote.
It's so good.
But of course, this movie's kind of how, but the new ways it is, even though they're all traditional. And then there's this great pan because he's like, the father's like, "At least not my other son, like at least not Somnath, right?" And he's like, "You too," and the camera pans to him, and he just doesn't say anything. He just stays silent. And that's gonna basically be the theme for the rest of his movie, where like every time he faces a moral dilemma or something, he's just gonna stay silent and let it happen almost. But the older brother kind of stands up for him because he's like, bribes are not taken for granted anymore, or he's like, bribes are taken for granted. Somnath can't spend too much. What resources does he have? It's like basically like that's his only way. Like this is the business. This is like the business world is bribery. Like to make it, you have to do shit like this.
It is.
Yeah. It also makes me think it's a very kind of who's defining what bribery is. Like in politics, like lobbying is basically bribery.
Yes.
But it's called lobbying. It's a different word, you know.
Or because like bribery is illegal, Danny.
Yeah. No, this is totally illegal lobbying. But another example, I was just thinking about this because like Blake's brother Brady works at a medical place.
Yes.
I was just thinking because he always talks about he gets free food.
Yes, that's it.
Every day.
Yes, it's definitely bribery.
Yeah, he gets free food every day. I'm like, how does? And I asked him how he gets free food. It's like because he works at some medical place.
Yeah, it's a big medical place.
Right? Yeah. But they basically get free food almost every day. It's because all these pharmaceutical companies, pharmaceutical reps, will pay for free food for like the whole building, basically.
Because they want to keep their sales, basically,
or get their sales. Either one.
Yeah, both.
But it's not bribery. You know, it's totally legal.
Damn.
But it's like, damn, that's just so crazy. Like shit like that.
So
like,
the corporations aren't doing it out of the kindness of their hearts?
No, they are doing it out of the kindness of their heart. That's what makes it different than bribery. Bribery's not kind. No, but that's what I'm saying. Okay, but yeah, it's like basically the same thing. Like, where do we draw like all this stuff? But like, that's kind of what the older brother's saying. Like, the system, like a lot of this stuff is like arbitrary. But this is where I'm saying also the father's a little different because the father is like, in a way, he's saying this makes it even more tragic for him because he's like, I don't have. He talks about their mother dying. He says he's already lost the faith in God because of that. He's like, I don't even have the faith that other people my age have of like they can lean back on. He's like, I have none of the faith that comforts people my age, which is like kind of sad, honestly. And then he says, and then the brother says, it's not, if we're not as good as you are, it's because it's not possible nowadays. I think that's like a good way to see maybe even the ending too, of like what I said about how he kind of just like accepts a social situation, you know, like maybe that's kind of another take on that. Because I also put in my notes like this is like an important scene of like, so the older brother kind of makes this challenge. You can almost say if like in a traditional movie, he's like, if we're not as good as you are, it's because it's not possible. In like a heroic movie, you might see a character be like kind of prove that wrong, you know, over the second half of the movie. Like, oh no, we actually are going to see a character do that, you know. But it's like exactly the opposite. Like we actually see this guy be right. Like there's like it's not possible to be good, which is like you said, maybe makes a race depressing movie in a way. Or I forgot what you said exactly. But then this is where we're gonna meet Ravi Ghosh. Oh yeah, he says he's an expert in public relations, and that's what made me think of like an agent and stuff. I'm just like
PR guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But then he like meets him at a barbershop while he's getting shaved and like tells him his whole thing, like what he needs from this like guy that works in the textile mill. He's like, I love how he like basically knows his like biography. He's like, he knows what cars he drives. He like knows his daughter's like graduation date or like who she got married to and stuff. And then we're just like following around. Like they go to like a prayer meeting the next as they're still talking. They go to a prayer meeting and we don't find out why until they're actually there. And he's like, oh, I'm investigating that guy that's like in the middle row.
It's like watch me. He's about to scratch his eyes.
Yeah.
So focused.
He's so focused. He's locked in, man.
No, because that's this prayer meeting. He's like asking about the guy's wife, and he's like, okay, what do you know about him? He's like, oh, he said he had a picture of a holy man in his room, but he said it was because of his wife. And he's like, oh, scared of his wife. That's good to know. And then he's like, what about his secretary? Average or special? And the guy has a laugh. He's like, special. Special. I was like, damn, that's funny. And then basically like there's a quick scene of it cuts back to the father at the home, but then the next day he goes to meet Ravi Ghosh again, and I just love this scene too, like where because he's telling him like he just took a dip in the Holy Ganges, and he's like, I thought he's like, you have no idea the things a pro has to do. Like basically be a holy man, or like basically be whatever he has to. Like what I like said about the shifting morals or whatever. It's like, oh, that's a perfect description for this guy, you know, because he's willing to do anything. And I love like, do you remember this pen he has? It's like just the funniest moment in the movie for me. It's like so random, but it's like this pen. He just shows him this pen. He's like, have you ever seen anything like this? And it's like this pen that has a woman on it, but it's like, well, it looks like she's clothed. It's clothed where because the ink is like you can see through the ink through the pen. But then when he flips the pen, the ink turns the other way, and it looks like she gets naked. It's like so I don't know, just so funny.
He's like, that ain't like some like technological innovation.
I would pay so much for that pen. Just to have it, like not in a sexist way, but like it's in a Ray movie kind of way, you know, like a prop.
Okay, sure.
He got the pen. He got the pen.
He got a little too excited over that. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little too excited. Like, goddamn.
Okay.
He got the pen.
He's trying to explain to people. No, guys, from any movie. Like, no, it's not the way you think. Not the way you think.
He did get the pen from the guy's car, though. I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
Because he was talking about how he was like, I got from the guy's like a glove box.
Okay. Damn, it's like damn. This guy really has.
This guy's very good at his job. Like,
no, because he's like that's when they come up with this plan that's going to lead the rest of the movie. Is like we know this guy is sexually deprived in a way because you find that the wife has polio. Was crippled from polio, and it's basically all insinuated from there. He's like, "You're a supplier, right? This is a commodity." And I put in my notes like, there's a part where the character where he says that it's like, "You're a supplier, right? This is a commodity," and like the way he puts his head down, because like I pointed this out. And I've been realizing this throughout all the movies. Like Ray loves these like shots of people just thinking, you know, these kind of moments, you know, like transition or whatever, and they have to think about it. And like the ones we get in the Adversary are much more like kind of intense, and these ones they're more defeated. Yeah. At least the way I see it. You know, that's partly kind of just the movie's material, but also the way even just like throughout the movie we're gonna get them. They even just become more and more defeated over time. Yeah, this is where, like, because he's, like, thinking about it, he's like, oh, should I really do this? And he's like, can you do a peon's job? Do you have the guts to work in a factory? And he's like, no. He's like, you admit it, you're a mental and physical weakling. Like, basically telling him you have to do this, you know, like, you can't do anything else. Like, and then he's like, but he's like, even if you decide to black out later, you still have to pay me in full. You know, basically kind of being like, okay, you're basically like, you gotta do this. And he kind of agrees, you know, he's like, he's not fighting back, you know, he's like, everything, like what I'm saying, like, everything, he just goes along with it. But then, there's this great cut, too, of, like, him kind of making this choice to this kind of weird shot of this candle flame, and it slowly backs out, and he's, like, the father listening to this, like, old song on the radio. Yeah. Just, like, always it stuck out to me. And that's when, like, we get the scene of, him talking to the sister, and he's like, basically saying that, like, he's basically had 100, like, this is where I'm like, it's like a great comparison to the earlier scenes where he's like been so excited to like brag about his money to the girl, to his sister, and like, basically he's like been happy about business. All of a sudden he's like done a 180 flip of like, now he's like really depressed. He's like, I never imagined that things would have to turn out like this. This is where he tells his sister, he's like, in Bengali it's called dalal or pimp. And he's like, I have to do things that I despise. And she doesn't know that he's like, that's what makes the movie kind of funny too, because he's like literally a pimp. He's like literally about to be a pimp, but he's like, she thinks he's being like metaphorical or whatever, you know, like a businessman would talk about it or something. He's like, no, he's literally about to do this.
It's like, no, I'm literally a pimp.
No, because he's like, and then he's like, oh, but this is where he's like, she's like, but your job was forced on you by circumstances. And then he's like, who will realize that? And that's where it's like, she's more this is the amoral part, right? She's not judging. Yeah. You know? She realizes the kind of situational aspects of it, even though she doesn't know exactly what he's doing, but this kind of him having to accept business anyway. And now this last part of the movie is going to be basically this whole kind of it's almost like a screwball-esque comedy type of thing, of like that, like almost like having to find a prostitute to like meet the deadline, you know? Like, but that's literally what's going on.
Yeah, it is. When you say it like that.
No, and it's like a comedy the way the characters are meeting too. If it was like a different scenario, you would be like, oh, this is like a comedy. But just the prostitute part of it and like the kind of material is like makes it a bleak, very dark comedy. Because like the screwball part is just like I'm thinking about right now, because it is almost like that, like because they're going to like this first house. First house is this I guess more elegant woman, and like first she's at the house by herself, and she like doesn't realize like the appointment was for today, and so that's when he starts freaking out. And I just like love his reaction. He like starts begging her, and he's like, oh please. He like gets up, and she finally agrees. But then bad news comes because even though she agrees, the drunk husband comes early. It's like this is a comedy thing. It was like, oh, a drunk husband coming home to his wife that he pimps out usually, but he just doesn't want to be there when he does it because like that'll make him mad. So he's like, oh, he's usually not here at this time. And then it's just funny the reason why he doesn't let her go today, because normally it'd be like, oh, it's his wife. Of course he's not gonna let her go. But his reason is like, you've already gone the past few days, and I've started drinking country liquor now, which is way cheaper, so you don't have to go today.
Yeah.
Which is just like, oh my gosh, so it's like even a worse reason. Just like not letting her go. It's just, but yeah, because then they end up leaving the house, and he's like, oh, drives his wife to do it. Now he puts on airs about it, of course. But then
that is an insane thing to say though to your wife. Like, if I didn't have a drinking problem, you wouldn't have to be a prostitute, basically.
But it's even worse than that. He's like, he thinks he's saying the good things. He's like, oh, I've gone to the cheap liquor now. You don't have to do as much. Like, oh, if you always drinking the expensive liquor, you have to go. Because he's like, you don't have to go every day this week now. Just crazy. That's what makes it a comedy now. It's like the husband does the right thing, but it's like the opposite reason. It's like the opposite reason that you would do. It's like
he's a little confused. He's got the spirit.
No, it's not even that. It's like he doesn't have the spirit. It's like the opposite.
He's a little confused, but he doesn't. He's just confused.
He's a little drunk. He's definitely a little drunk.
He's a little drunk. Yeah.
And this is where I have in my notes, where because like we get back in the car and they're going to the second location now. And I have in my notes, like, this might be in the traditional movie, like, maybe this is where he makes this change, like, there's, like, these points where, like, oh, now he's going to make the change. He's having these thinking moments, now he's going to choose something different. But, like, in this movie, it's, like, over and over again, it's, like, no, he's just going to let it happen. And this time, the second woman goes, it's another kind of comedic situation, but it's even more, like, this mom tells, like, the most depressing story of, like, letting one of her daughters go to Hong Kong. And like, oh, it's like, oh, this rich guy promised to travel all around Hong Kong with her. It's like an opportunity she couldn't pass up. Yeah. But then I get this letter once she got there, where this guy basically ended up pimping her out and taking all her money and trapping her there. And she tells the story like really depressingly, and then Robbie Ghosh just like. He has this, like, quick look of disgust, and he just changes the subject right away. He's like, what about the other daughter? It's just like, damn. Like,
he's feeling
yeah. It's just, like...
Ruthless.
It just totally... Like, he has a quick reaction of disgust, and it's just, like, moving on. Like, I don't care. Like, what about the other one, And then she's like, she says, I think she goes to go see if she's getting ready or something. And as she leaves, he's like, well, Robbie Ghosh asked the main character, what do you think? Or he's like, well, and he's like, strange world. That's all he has to say about it. And it's, and that's when, the reason why this scene ends up not working for them is she wants the client to come to her brothel or her house instead of the daughter leaving. Maybe because, she's already lost one daughter, she doesn't want to lose another daughter. But, this is like, I don't know if you remember in the scene, they play like some kind of lullaby or something. I forgot, like
on the music box.
Yeah, the music box from Japan is like this, like I don't know if it's a lullaby, but it's like some very. I put in my notes innocent sounding music because this is just Ray just being like full, like almost just like outright comedic because it's like the scene ends with them leaving the second brothel. This like almost like lullaby music is playing, and the camera like pans up, and there's just like this poster of these 3 puppies. Yeah, and that's how the scene ends. It's like he's just like trying to show the most innocent stuff, like almost just for fun, almost. But then this is the last. They go to the last woman, and this is where you can say the funniest, but also the darkest situation happens too. Like in a normal movie, this would be the flip would be funny, this reveal of this character from the beginning or something. I don't know. It'd be something not like so dark.
Yeah.
But or it would be a horror movie type of darkness, like this is the serial killer that we didn't know about or something. It's a really interesting like Ray. That's why like I love when directors like do something that's not normally like them. That's maybe why I think about Tokyo Twilight so much too. But Robbie Ghosh, he comes to this brothel we see is also like apparently like a typewriting place during the day, but it's like a brothel at night, which is crazy. But Ruby Ghost, he immediately comes, asks the guy, how's the stock situation? And that's when he's like, he goes, looks in the room, he's like, oh, I can't do it, I can't offer her. Like, do you have anyone else? And he's like, I have someone coming in 30 minutes who's perfect, named Juthika, and she, but she's late right now because of traffic or something. And that's when like it really points out how basically ineffective this guy is. Like, he's basically going with everything because like Ruby goes, she's like, okay, I need you to handle from everything now on because I have a different client. I thought I was going to be there at 8:30, but like now everything's behind, so I have to go now. So you have to handle it. And like he basically doesn't want to do anything. You know, he's like, he'll just like send her in a cab. You know, I don't even want to go with her and stuff. He's like so afraid to even look. He's like doesn't even look up. He's like looking down the whole time. And then that's when Ruby Ghosh leaves. Juthika walks in. She realizes who he is first before he realizes.
Well, he's looking down.
Yeah, he's looking down and like he's like back turned. But then after they both get in the taxi, that's when she realizes he also realizes who she is. And then this great shot of this great kind of conversation they have where this is where you could say the amoral woman is really like pertinent because it's like he says you're being childish talking about her and she's like no I'm not, you are. And really she's right, you know, like basically this whole movie is kind of like her understanding the situation and him like having these moral crises but actually ending up at the exact same point, you know, literally the same point as she is, just at a different part in the transaction really. But then there's this where like the silence really stands out here because like no music, it really makes you sit with like what's going on like realistically, you know, like they're in this hallway, they're just waiting for this guy to come get her in the hallway. It's like it's filmed in a wide shot as they stand next to each other, and then like she just walks in by herself. Like you're just like you're like hoping for some kind of like no, he's gonna take her back or like make some decision, but no, it just happens. You know, it's like.
Well, she's like trying to make eye contact with him too, right? And he like won't
in this
do
hallway?
it. He like wouldn't do it. Or
yeah. He just looked down. He does pay her a little extra too, like his like little way of showing some, I guess, kindness. I guess, but it just feels hopeless. I don't know. It's like and that's what makes this like last ending, I guess, so amazing too. Is like when he comes home, this kind of like ironic twist of like
it's like the job's done. His dad's like, oh
yeah. The father's he's like sad.
Yeah.
He comes in, he's like, but the way he says it too, he's sad. He's like, I've got it, father. The contract has come through, and then he's like, oh, it's such a relief, and he gets happy.
Yes.
And the father's like super happy about it. But the music is depressing. There's like a dramatic music. It just like he's making you think about this kind of ironic ending, you know. It's like, should the father be happy, or is like ignorance is really bliss, you know?
Ignorance is very, very much bliss for this. But if this dad knew what had just happened, he probably would have died.
Yes,
based on everything else that happened in this movie.
Like
based on all of his reactions to everything else that happened.
And like, I love how it ends like this too, because it like obviously it doesn't address it, but it just makes me think about the friend too. Like, how is he going to even see his friend the next time he sees him? You know?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, it's like honestly, the sister or the prostitute, she's like just an amazing character, honestly, because like he said to his sister earlier, like, no one will understand why I did this, and then his conversation with this prostitute is like, no, I perfectly understand why you're doing this, and I don't blame you for it, and then he still feels like shit.
Yeah, exactly. This is the classic like no win situation kind of. It's a movie like that. That's why it's like no heroes. But yeah, that is The Middleman. Next week we will conclude with The Music Room and The Chess Players. So
both movies about players.
Oh my god! It's too late.
Danny was roasting
it's
me
too
for
late.
That. Danny was roasting me for that.
until next week, hope to see you floating through the clouds.